Mr. President, we are still deliberating on House Bill 3408 under Committee Report Number 9, the 2017 National Budget. The parliamentary status of the measure is that we are still in the period of interpellation on the different budgets of the different departments. Under the agenda this morning are the budgets of the following departments and its attached agencies: Department of Public Works and Highways, the DPWH Local Water Utilities Administration, Department of Health, Commission on Elections, and perhaps the Department of Tourism, Department of Labor, and the Department of Information and Communications Technology. We hope to finish all these within the day. To present the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways and its attached agencies, may we recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Finance, Senator Loren Legarda. And first to interpellate today is Senator Pampilo Lacson. May we ask the Chairman of the Committee on Finance first to present the budget, Mr. President.
Senator Legarda is recognized to present the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways. And Senator Lacson is recognized to avail of the period of interpellation. Senator Legarda, can you please spread into the record the budget of the DPWH?
Yes, Mr. President. For the GAB of 2017, the budget of the DPWH, including the Office of the Secretary and the LUA, is for a total new appropriations of 452,223,700,000.
Thank you. Senator Lacson has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the sponsor of the budget yield to some clarificatory questions?
Yes, of course, Mr. President, to my Vice Chair, who interpellates me in most agencies, but I welcome your interventions.
Yes, I want to help you or assist you
Yes,
in
improve the budget.
crafting, yes, an improved budget.
Sure, Mr. President.
First of all, through you, I'd like to greet and welcome the DPWH family, some of whom I had the pleasure of working with when I was assigned as Presidential Assistant for Rehabilitation and Recovery. Marami pong magagaling dyan, maraming well-intentioned. I can cite Yusek Momo and Yusek Asis, for example. Sila yung katrabaho namin noon. Of course, yung bagong Yusek, si Yusek Karen. No? He used to be my communications director do sa PAR. Anyway, Madam Chair, when I presented the budget of the ARM, one of the questions raised by the distinguished minority leader, Senator Recto, was the reduction of 8.3 billion pesos from the budget of the ARM. I think we found where it went and more. No? Look at the budget of DPWH, comparing the 2017 NEP, which is also the GAB1. For purposes of my interpellation, let's refer to the NEP before it became GAB2 as GAB1, no? the version that the House members deliberated on. With that of GAB2, or the House version, there is an increase of 8.557 billion in the DPWH budget. Having said that, I don't believe that it is a mere coincidence that the amount deducted from the ARM approximates the increase in the DPWH appropriations under the House version. In the course of my interpellation, I hope I will be able to walk you through and show that such transfers of funds may pose some legal problems if and when the projects covered by such appropriations or increases will be implemented, if not rendered useless, and therefore would end up as unused appropriations. My first question is, how familiar is the distinguished sponsor with RA 9054?
Yes.
I repeat my question.
Yes.
How familiar is the distinguished sponsor with RA 9054?
Quite familiar, Mr. President. I was not yet in the Senate then, I covered it as a young journalist then, but I was supportive. You're referring to this law during the Ramos administration, which created the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao in 1996, correct, Mr. President?
That is the Organic Act,
The Organic Act, yes.
which could very well be the constitution
Of the
ARM.
Yes, Mr. President.
And I'd like to cite Section 20 in reference to my previous statement. It says, Section 20, Article 6, Annual Budget and Infrastructure Funds. The annual budget of the regional government shall be enacted by regional assembly. Funds for infrastructure in the autonomous region allocated by the central government or national government shall be appropriated through a regional assembly Public Works Act. Unless approved by the regional assembly, no public works funds allocated by the central government or national government for the regional government or allocated by the regional government from its own revenues may be disbursed, distributed, realigned, or used in any manner. In fact, there's jurisprudence in this regard. Ito yung GR number 149848, November 25, 2004. Kasi nagkaroon na ng kaso rito. And the Supreme Court actually maintained that indeed yung Organic Act, yung RA 9054, is in effect, should be in effect, and respected. Now, my next question is, does the Department of Public Works and Highways have district engineering offices in the ARM?
Yes, Mr. President.
Meron?
Your engineering office. Yung Isabela.
Wala po silang district engineering office kasi hindi sila pwede mag-implement.
Isabela City. Because, in Isabela City in Basilan, Mr. President.
Isabela City, but Isabela City is not under ARM.
That's why there is in Isabela City,
But-
within the geographical area, but not the political
Yes,
jurisdiction.
that is correct.
Yes.
And RA 9054 is precisely the reason why there are no DEOs in the ARM. Tama po ba yan?
Because they're independent.
No, they have their own
They have their own
DPWH.
DPWH, yes.
At hindi naman pwede mag-implement yung DPWH national in any of the districts or areas under ARM.
Yes, Mr. President.
Hindi po ba? So, okay.
You also have Marawi.
Ito yung item number 1. No? Yung description. For the construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of BILP, no? or the various infrastructure and local projects, no? for national roads. We notice that the location of the projects, except for the item ASEAN 2017 infra projects, appears to be in the ARM. Kindly explain. Ito po yung ang lalaki ng mga increases. If you notice, from 310
Excuse
million.
me, could I request the picture to be enlarged so that I can see it, please?
Kaya pa ba yan large?
So, I can't see it.
Well,
This
I can read it
Yes.
for you, Madam Chair.
Is this an increase? I just can't see it.
Okay.
You're
NEP
referring to-
2017 for
Yes.
GAB 1,
Yes.
under GAB 1, yung code reference 00002, then so many zeros, support operations, and then roads and bridges, national roads, strategic support fund including right of way, tapos construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of various infrastructure and local projects. NCR, walang change ito. Mayroong increase na 60 million pesos. Central Office, nandun yung ASEAN 2017 infrastructure projects, no change, 500 million. Region 9, Zamboanga Peninsula, Regional Office 9, proper. Ang in-increase dito, from 310 million, naging 1.5 billion. No?
In
So,
Zamboanga.
Zamboanga Peninsula, under Regional Office 9.
Yes.
Proper.
And the question is why the increase, Mr. President?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
Ipapakita ko lang sa inyo na yung, even if it's under the Regional Office 9 proper, may mga projects yan na papasok do sa ARM area, which as I said earlier, ang tanong ko bakit? Because DPWH cannot implement under the Organic Act. They should be allocated or appropriated sa ARM. So why the increase?
Yes, Mr. President, I have
Okay.
an answer to that Region 9 question.
Okay, 310 million naging 1.576 or an increase of 1.266 billion.
But intended for ARM.
Mamaya, ipapakita ko po sa inyo.
They
Na
tell
mapupunta
me
saan?
that this increase is indeed for the projects within the ARM and implemented by the regional office of 9, 10, and 12.
They cannot. They cannot. Under the Organic Act. They cannot do that.
It's implemented by the
By the
three regions
DPWH arm,
ARM. No,
but not by the regional
it's the
office
regional offices.
under the Zamboanga Peninsula, under the DPWH national. They cannot do that.
Yung tatlong region nyo, pero it's within the ARM ang makikinabang. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Is it the first time?
Maybe the sponsor can speak to the
Yes,
microphone
Mr.
so
President,
that...
I am informed that it will be, you're correct, it's in the ARM region, but it is a project implemented by the three regional offices outside of the ARM, 9, 10, and 12.
They cannot do that, Madam Chair.
Yes.
My question is, why transfer it to the national office of the DPWH? And nandun na dati sa ARM yan eh. Ito nga yung 8.317 billion
Yes.
na
Can I
pinag-uusapan
ask for
natin.
1 minute, because I just want to know whether this is the first time it's happening, or is it a
I'm
customary?
not blaming DPWH because this happened during the deliberations in the House.
In fact, Mr. President, I am informed again that clearly this is not in the NEP, and the
Yes.
8 billion transfer was made in the House.
That is
That's-
correct.
So it
Pero
was...
mapapahamak po rito, hindi yung mga congressmen. Ang mapapahamak dito,
Oo.
DPWH.
Can I ask for 1 minute suspension? I
Okay.
have my own questions as well.
1 minute
Just a minute.
suspension.
Thank you. Is it the first time this is happening, or every year this is being done?
Pero mo kung pwedeng i-enlarge ng konti. Hindi nyo makita. Hindi, kada videos yun yan.
Baka i-ano nila sa PDF pag ako sa
Sir, in fact sir, yung sa decision po na Supreme Court, ito po yung sinasay.
Ready to resume, Mr. President? Mr. President,
Session is resumed.
yes. Natutumpok ko po ang inyong katanungan. Galing sa ARM. i-implement ng national 3 rehiyon. I-implement naman within the political jurisdiction of ARM. Di ibalik na sa ARM, hindi ba?
That's exactly my point.
We will do
Madam
that.
President.
To abbreviate this, I agree with you and we will do that.
No, I would just like to
Yeah.
point out, just for clarity,
Yes.
Madam Chair, ito yung mga items, ito yung mga projects, dahil sinasabi nyo under Region 9 na nasa Zamboanga Peninsula.
Just clarification hindi po sila ang gumawa.
No, no.
Yes.
Ito yung nga sinabi ko,
It was-
hindi nila kasalanan ito.
Yes.
That's why we're helping them. Kasi sila makakasuhan dito pag in-implement nila.
They agree that since the augmentation came from the decrease in the ARM budget, to return it where it belongs, since the implementation of this will be within the ARM political jurisdiction.
Yes. Just for the record,
Yes.
Madam Chair, ito yun, concreting of Marawi, pwera na yung ASEAN 2017 infrastructure projects. Pero ito lahat under ARM. Concreting of Marawi, Kapay, Tagoloan Road, Tagoloan Section, Lanao del Sur. First, ito pa yung revealing dito, bakit legislative district? Ano ba yung LD? I'd like to clarify first.
Ano yung
LD.
legislative district,
Okay,
Mr.
bakit
President?
hindi engineering district? Meron bang legislative district ang DPWH?
There's only an engineering district,
Yes.
but no
Ang may
legislative
legislative
district.
district, Congress.
Yes.
So,
If you want, we can even submit who in Congress realigned this 8 billion.
may idea po kami kung sino nag
I don't have an idea. Can you tell the sponsor, please?
Bubulong ko sa inyo mamaya.
Maybe it's better you put in the spirit of transparency. You can
Anyway,
put it on record, Mr.
ma-appreciate
President.
natin as we go on.
Oo.
Kasi ma-identify nyo naman based on the projects, identified naman by legislative districts. So alam na natin kung sino yung congressman doon. Hindi po ba? So, for the record, yun, legislative district. Yung sa Lanao del Sur, first legislative district. Concreting of Romandlier Camp Andres National Park, kilometer 44 plus 000 to kilometer 47 plus 000, Sulu, second legislative district. Third, Tawi-Tawi Lone District. Another item, Tawi-Tawi Lone District. Malalaki po ito at saka pare-parehong amount.
Can the chair ask a question to Senator Lacson and the
Yes, Mr.
sponsor?
President.
The allocation to the ARMM is lump sum, Senator Lacson?
Not lump sum because they submitted the regional development plan. Actually, it's a medium-term development plan all the way up to 2022. And part of the regional development plan would be the projects that are supposed to be implemented for 2017.
And are
Ang-
those, I'm sorry,
Ang nangyari po doon, natanggal nga yung 8.317 billion at nalipat sa DPWH.
yung 8.3 billion, how does it appear in the National Expenditure Program? Is it a lump sum?
Itemized, Mr. President. Hindi
Sorry?
po lump sum. Itemized.
Itemized
May mga projects na
by mga
identified.
projects?
Because they're
And-
following the regional development plan.
Right. And the interpretation under Section 20 is that upon approval of the budget, the funds shall be appropriated through the Regional Assembly of the Public Works Act.
Public Works Act. They will have to enact a Public Works Act, the Regional Assembly.
Sorry, sir.
They will have to enact a Public Works Act. I mean, the Regional Assembly will have to enact a Public Works Act detailing how the appropriations for infrastructure projects will be implemented.
May the chair know how it was done in the past? Not that we are controlled by that, but just as how was this interpreted and implemented in the past? Let's say in the current year, Senator Lacson.
I have no idea
Can the
how
sponsor
they
answer?
implemented it in 2016 or 2015, 2014, but there's a Supreme Court ruling dated 25 November 2004 dahil tinransfer po rin yung mga allocations or appropriations from ARM to the national government. Na-struck down po ito ng Supreme Court.
Mr.
Sinasabi
President.
bawal nga.
Yes. Pertaining to the question of the presiding officer, I am informed that this is not the first time that regions outside of the ARM have allocated for infrastructure development within the ARM. In the Aquino administration, this was an annual practice according to the DPWH, and because it is contained in the General Appropriations Act, which is a law, the DPWH follows the enactment.
But it's in violation of the Organic Act, which, my question, Mr. President, ano ba yung nagtetake ng President? Yung Organic Act or yung General Appropriations Act?
Before I
We're
answer
not-
that question, Mr. President, I am also informed that most of the roads within the ARM are local constituency roads, but national roads that connect to areas outside of the ARM. Alam naman natin, di ba, Cotabato City, ko-connect yun din. Yan po, para may continuity, ay ginagawa ng national government. And so it's not the first time that this intervention is made. In fact, even during the Aquino administration, Secretary Singson time, the regional offices in 9, 10, 12 have implemented areas within the political jurisdiction of the ARM because, as we know geographically, Cotabato City is not part of ARM, but is connected to roads leading to Davao City. And so for continuity in the construction, there are budgets allocated for that.
And
Just
it was
like Marawi
questioned.
City is not part of ARM, but connects to the roads up to Cagayan de Oro.
And when it was questioned before the Supreme Court issued a ruling on the matter that they cannot do that.
Well,
If
the
it's being
DPW
practiced, nobody was questioning it. Ang point ko, Madam Chair, is
Yes.
why transfer 8 billion from ARM na nandoon na?
Yes, this is a different matter. The transfer is clear. It came from ARM, moved out of ARM for ARM. However, the practice of others in the past, Secretary Singsong's time and even before that, where district offices outside of the ARM have projects to help ARM, that's always been done, according to the DPWH. Not the transfer. This transfer seems sneaky. I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that outside of this transfer, which we will put back in ARM if you wish, if that is your amendment, in the past, the regions outside of ARM in Mindanao are allocated projects for national roads connecting to ARM.
Pero klaro naman po yung 9054 eh. Talaga it should be coursed through the Regional Assembly Public Works Act. And the ones who should implement are the engineering offices or district offices within the ARM, hindi ng DPWH.
But how is that? Because the roads are connected, no? Let's say when you go from Jensan, no, to Cotabato. But Cotabato is not part of ARM, but it's a center of Maguindanao, which is part of ARM. How will you cut the road? And then you have to wait for the regional assembly to approve that allocation for that road, which would connect it.
As a matter of course, they approved the Public Works Act. Basta't na yun yung appropriations, mag-a-approve na sila o magpapas na sila ng legislation approving the Public Works Act. And if you notice, Madam Chair, just to proceed, kung makita ninyo, pare-pareho yung amount. Lanao del Sur First Legislative District, 75 million. Sulu Second District, 75 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 75 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 75 million. Ito, yung Tawi-Tawi Lone District, another 65 million. Now, what does it tell you, Madam Sponsor? If the amounts are practically the same, what does it tell you?
I have no idea, Mr. President.
You have no idea.
Please,
Both of us, we were not born yesterday, Madam Chair.
I don't want to assume. I just want to do it right. And if you believe And if they agree that the right way to do it is to return it to where it belongs, then we will return it to where it came from, in the NEP.
Anyway, so we are in agreement that during the period of amendments, and even the DPWH family, I think will agree with me, na pahig naman sila or they're more than willing to remove the amount taken out of ARM sa budget nila, ibalik natin sa ARM para wala nang gulo.
Yes.
Sila po madidiskrasya rito,
Yes.
maniwala kayo sa akin.
Yes, Mr. President. That's accepted.
Okay. Now, let's move on.
Again, before we move on Senator Lacson, the way the chair interprets Section 20, there is a lump sum appropriation for ARMM. After the budget is approved, it is the regional assembly who now allocates the funds for infrastructure to the different provinces in the ARMM. That's how I read it. In other words, as part of the autonomy, the regional government receives the public works funds and in lump sum, and then the regional assembly will enact a regional assembly public works act, wherein the lump sum allocation is distributed to the different districts. That's how we interpret the provision.
Yes, Mr. President. But under the ARM budget, naka-itemize na rin yung
Naka-item-
allocation na yon.
It's not a lump sum.
I-formalize na lang ng Regional Assembly in passing the Public Works Act kung saan pupunta yung mga appropriations. or
Precisely, our reading of Section 20
Yes.
is that this is part of the autonomous structure of the ARMM. They are given a lump sum, and the Regional Assembly Public Works Act will allocate where this lump sum for infrastructure will be allocated. That's our humble interpretation. I do not know if the sponsor or Senator Lacson will agree with that. That's how we read Section 20.
That is correct, Mr. President, except that under the ARM budget for 2017, naka-itemize na rin talaga yung mga items na
Kaya nga po,
gagamitin.
nawawalan ng kapangyarihan ang Regional Assembly na magkaroon ng sariling appropriation kasi hindi pwedeng palitan ng Regional Assembly yung General Appropriations Act approved by Congress, which incidentally already disaggregates what the Public Works Act will be.
I see your point, Mr. President. And I appreciate your observation.
Yeah. Mr. President, I'm informed that the DBM does this line item budgeting for the public works of ARM in the NEP based on consultation or submissions of the ARM DPWH, which is included in the NEP, and then it goes through the process. So it's not DBM or the DPWH Manila that does the itemization. It is a submission of the ARM DPWH.
That is correct. That is correct, Madam Sponsor.
Okay.
Just to move on, and just to place it or put it on record, Lanao del Sur, 2nd District, 150 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, another 40 million. Tawi-Tawi Lone District, 25 million. Tawi-Tawi, 40 million. Another, in Tawi-Tawi, 30 million. Lanao del Sur, 1st District, 75 million. Another one, 1st District, 70 million. 1st District, 50 million. Another, under the 1st District, 50 million. Another 50 million. And then another 20 million. 2nd District, 371 million. Yan po yung mga allocations. So, would you want me to inquire who are the congressmen in those districts? Hindi na.
You can just put on record if you are certain of your facts, just
No.
to spread on the record if you wish. However, we agree already that it will be returned to ARM, and hopefully, it will not suffer. I mean, meaning these projects will be implemented whether they are implemented by the 3 regions outside of ARM or within the ARM.
No, it's not a matter of who should implement. It's a matter of, complying with the law or complying with the Organic Act. Hindi ito yung whether it's implemented by the national DPWH or the armed DPWH. The law is very clear, Madam Sponsor. It
Is-
should be our concern.
Yes,
actually.
is a gentleman saying that there should be no allocation from the national government and all regions outside of the ARM must not implement any infrastructure project within the political jurisdiction of ARM.
That is correct.
Just on the record, as I said earlier, this has been done in the Aquino administration every year. I understand it's an annual practice from Arroyo, Aquino, Estrada, from the time the Organic Act was passed into law in 96, correct? Yes. So from
That
1996...
doesn't make it legal or right,
Uh,
Madam Sponsor.
I am told because this is a law, it's the GAA, then it is followed. So it's a practice. Now, it will be a legal debate which reigns supreme. Is it the Organic Act or is it the General Appropriations Act?
Well, I'd like to pose the question to the sponsor. Which should take precedent?
Well, the Organic Act is it's the mother law that should regulate the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao.
Can the chair intervene? And
Yes,
help?
yes, of course. How would you interpret that? Should
The-
we
the
then cut the
organic-
practice?
The organic law being a substantive law and having been ratified by the people in the ARMM is superior
To the GAA.
The GAA. The GAA, the General Appropriations Act, cannot amend a substantive law, especially in this case where the ARMM is an organic law which is higher than an ordinary substantive law, as the organic law was ratified in a plebiscite in the ARMM.
We take note of that, and therefore, based on our understanding then, henceforth, no national appropriations must be made for the ARM except that which is allocated for them and unless passed by the Regional Assembly. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
No, the President, the Senate President very correctly pointed it out, no? Yung Organic Act, talagang superior ito because
Yes, yes.
ina-appear sa plebiscite ito eh.
No, I agree. There is no discussion about that. I agree with the Senate President. All I'm saying is that since Congress and the executive has been, in a way, violative of this interpretation of the Organic Act, since it was enacted in the Ramos administration, and every year there have been interventions of the national government in infrastructure projects within the ARM. Are we saying that henceforth we are not to allocate for the ARM except for that which is allocated to them and passed in the Regional Assembly?
We should appropriate funds
For them.
for the ARM.
And they decide.
Yes, that is correct.
That's fine with me. That's
Decided
no
na po
problem.
ito,
Yes.
Disumangkop versus DPWH, GR number
Will
149848.
it affect your budget tremendously? Yes, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly agree. Of course, with the interpretation, which is very clear in my mind, of the Organic Act and the GAA, we thank the presiding officer for putting it on record, and we thank you for bringing to our attention the seeming violation, continuing violation, since the enactment of the Organic Act. And so the DPWH will comply and will return it to where it belongs.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President. Moving on, kindly explain why a total amount of 7.9 billion pesos out of the 16.735 billion for the construction, repair, rehabilitation, improvement of, again, BILP for local roads is under the central office.
Yung central office, ma'am, yes. Code lang yan. It's not actually central office kasi it's to say BBS.
Hindi. Bakit? But when does it actually belong?
Naka-itemize ko yan.
VILP. various infrastructure projects.
So, so nakandun din po yan ka-itemize niya itemized.
Mr. President, there are line item provisions of this. It is really not central office. They say that DBM just put central office, but these are not central office projects. It's actually itemized.
Can you show this representation, the items as described, Madam Chair?
Ano yung items nun?
Again, hindi po natin sinisisi yung DPWH kasi all the transfers, all the augmentations, lahat ng nanggaling ho to sa House of Representatives. No, hindi naman, kasi sa NEP, hindi naman ganito itsura eh. Kaya nga sinabi ko kanina,
Ano?
yung transfer ng 8.3 billion from ARM to DPWH, marami pa nangyari within the DPWH budget under the House version.
Mr. President, it is not it is not a lump sum in the central office. I have the list here of the projects in various parts of the country. It's just a administrative term or code put by DBM, but DPWH advises me that yes, and I see it here. It's actually there are line items of various projects all over the country, infra projects.
And I'd like to point out yung 8 billion plus, hindi lang sa ARM ito na distribute, lumabas na po ito ng ARM. So, would you be in agreement with this representation na maski yung na-reallocate outside of the ARM area, but part of the 8.3 billion, ibabalik din natin sa ARM? Kasi iba lumabas na po nasa SOC Sergeant na
Yung galing sa ARM. Oh,
Na
yung
8.3.
You're referring to what we discussed earlier.
Yes, na hindi lahat ng 8.3 billion.
Hindi lang
sa
lahat,
ARM
Region
din
9, 10, and 12. I was under the impression that the whole
No,
8 billion...
Region 12 pero labas na ng ARM area. So,
babalik sa ARM, that's what we said
okay.
earlier. Yes. Yung kanina, no, yung 8 billion na ARM project na mag-implement. Ayos, kaya nga 12, diba? Inisibit na sa 9, 10, 12, na pwede na tayo, babalik sa ARM. Kasi ARM project.
Kasi meron na pong napunta sa Valencia City, Bukidnon. And other areas outside of ARM, pero nanggaling doon sa 8.3. May I know how much yung nailabas ng ARM, nailabas sa area ng ARM out of the 8.3 billion?
Magkano nailabas sa 8 billion? Can they submit that of the 8 billion which is retained in ARM, which are outside? They don't have it now.
Can they not submit it now? Wala ba kayo record? Kasi alam nyo, pagka yung they will submit, hindi naman po talaga nagsasubmit after the General Appropriations Bill is enacted into law.
LBR Remo monitors the submissions of agencies, no?
Ilang taon na po ako nag-interpolate, hindi naman sila nagsasubmit eh.
So ang gusto lang malaman ni Senator Lacson, yung 8 billion, anong binalik
Yung excess,
yung, sa ARM?
how much was reappropriated or transferred within the ARM region and how much of the 8.3 billion ang lumabas ng ARM? Para sa period of amendment, alam natin kung ano yung i-amend natin.
non-negotiable in the House. Attorney Yoli, make sure when I talk to him, it's non-negotiable. It should go back to ARM. Diba? Ang gusto, ibalik sa NEP. So, ang gusto ng ARM. Oo. Yes, yes. Correct, correct. Oo. Parang may kawalan ng ARM. Hinihilang mo ng ARM, ibalik sa kanila. Yung tinanggal sa kanila, naligay, kinalat sa ibang lugar.
Suspend na muna tayo.
Sabay kami to. Yes, Mr. President.
Do I have the answer, Madam Chair? Uh, 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Pwede isubmit.
Na muna lang.
Ha?
Suspended for 1 minute.
Kaya na nyo pakita ngayon? Sa umaga? Kaninong sulat to? Implementation. Ano? Technical projects. What's this? Yeah. Okay. ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I am informed that the whole 8.3 billion is retained within ARM. The only infra project outside of ARM is in Cotabato City, but that is for continuity of the infrastructure.
So, Cotabato City is outside of the ARM area, Madam.
Yes.
How much was reappropriated to Cotabato City
Of the 8.3, ilan?
from the House version?
Yun lang nahanap din outside of ARM yung Cotabato.
Kasi yung items na nasa labas ng ARM. Yun nga, nasa surgeon eh. Kasi, ito yung sa Bukidnon. Pero kulang to eh.
Of the 8.3, ilan yung Cotabato? Check natin, sabay kang hindi mabalik.
I want to know now because when I make my individual amendment, gusto kong malaman saan ko kukunin yung ibabalik ko sa ARM. And if we don't identify now kung saan yung nag-spill over outside of the ARM area, saan ko kukunin ngayon pag nag-amend ako?
So kaya natin gawin lang itong linipat, ibabalik sa ARM. Hindi, balik naman except this, 8.3. Oo. Matatanggal na ng Cotabato. Yes. There's 993,637,000 million.
600.
Almost 637,500 in Cotabato City of the 8.3. So if the decision, if your amendment is to return everything from ARM that was taken away from ARM, Cotabato will lose this and be brought back to ARM.
This is Cotabato City. Are there other areas?
Yun lang. Yun lang.
Isabela is outside the ARM area, hindi ba?
Isabela City.
Dahil sa referendum nila.
Marawi, Cotabato, Isabela
Marawi.
are outside.
Marawi rejoined.
Marawi is...
Ang Marawi rejoined.
Marawi is ARM already. Nga pala. So, Isabela and Cotabato.
Isabela po, 189.
Isabela City, Basilan, 189 million, Mr. President.
189 million. Isabela Basilan. That's all, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. During my interpellation on general principles, hindi ba napag-usapan natin, you justified the reduction of 6 billion pesos from the NDRRMC. Ang sabi po ninyo, kasi unused, hindi naman nagagamit ng NDRRMC, kaya dapat lamang nabawasan sila ng 6 billion. In fact, I think 6 billion was reduced or deducted from the House version, and then we further deducted 1 billion yata sa Senate version, Senate committee report. Now, I'd like to show you the detailed unused appropriations for 5 years, from 2011 to 2015 ng DPWH. Yun po. Kindly flash your screen. Wala ba? Oh. Okay, from 2011 hanggang 2016, kasama na yung adjusted. They're averaging 75 billion in unused appropriations, year in and year out. Ayan record. For 2011, 86 billion, 43 billion in 2012, 25.5 billion in 2013, 112 billion in 2014, 116 billion in 2015, and then sa 2016, ang adjusted unused appropriations, 82 billion. Now, my question is, why are we, or why did we, anyway, babalik na naman tayo sa 8 billion, never mind, I won't belabor that point, but kung ito yung reason for reducing the NDRRMC fund by 6 or 7 billion, hindi ba parang it's a paradox na dinagdagan natin dinagdagan ng House ng 8 billion yung DPWH in spite of huge unused appropriations? I would just like to confirm with DPWH, tama ba itong unused appropriations nila? As flashed on the screen.
Ako na yung ating figures. As of 151 million. Million.
More or less tama, Madam Sponsor.
Dyan pa? Is that accurate?
Yeah, unused. Ang pag sinabing unused, unobligated and
And
unreleased.
unreleased.
Now, that should lead me to my next question. How much of these unused appropriations ang unreleased at saka how much yung unobligated?
In short, the question is, of the 116 billion 206 that's expiring by end of this year, is that accurate, the 2015? Where's your finance officer? And then the 82 billion 361 can still be used for next year.
Yes.
So how much of this is still with DBM? We have that. Okay, the ano ba? 151 billion. Okay. Itong 2015 yung mag-expire to. Ngayon. Yeah, you don't have unreleased. Mr. President, what we have now for 2015, which will expire end of the year, is 94 billion, but this is still in the process of being obligated. And as of October 31, which will be carried over for continuing appropriations for next year, we have 151.5 billion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, moving on, may we know the reason behind the reduction of 5.9 billion pesos on programs? Diyan, paki-flash yung programs. Kasi sa NEP, 372 billion. Pagdating sa GAB o sa House version, naging 367 na lang. Nawala yung o nabawasan ng 5.9. Question is, what's the reason behind the reduction?
Ano yan?
Na-reduce na
Oo, 5.9.
Yeah, pati yung support operations, nabawasan ng 10.8 billion.
right of way.
Right of way. Is it mostly right of way? Right of way. The decrease, Mr. President, is attributable to right of way acquisition.
Papakita ko sa inyo, laki ng binawas sa road right of way, mga 10 billion, from 31 to 21.
So this, just,
So,
this,
hindi pwedeng attribution doon,
5.2
parehong nabawasan.
programs is right of way. Difficulty in, difficulty. So the increase ninyo sa right of way, is this 5.9 part of this or it's different? So this is right of way and this is right of way.
Kasama yung 5.2
This 5.9 is right of way. That's the only question. That's right of way. No. So my question lang, yung 5.9, right of way.
Hindi pwedeng yung reduction napunta sa road right of way kasi pati yung road right of way, ang laki ng binawas.
So net yun, net. Net. net ng values,
Parang
may madagdag, may malagdag.
schedule.
So, net yun.
Pero mostly right of way.
So, net po yun ng lahat ng additions and reductions. Yung pong 5.9. Pero pinakamalaking reduction sa net po yun ng deductions and additions. Total po. Net.
What's the nature of that?
It's mostly right of way.
Na-identify po yung
Mr. President, I'm informed that the 5.9 are mostly right-of-way issues. That's why it was decreased.
Nabawasan din yung road right of way ng 10 billion. I'll show you later.
Yes, I have it here. I see it. There's
So, binawasan yung
there's a
programs.
decrease of programs for 5.9, another 10 billion decrease in right-of-way.
So,
That's-
paano pupunta yun sa road right of way kung binawasan din yung road right of way?
Iba yung program na right-of-way, iba pa yung right-of-way.
5.9 billion sa programs and another 10.8 billion sa support operations. Yun ang mga
Yes.
nabawas.
I see it in the list, Mr.
Yes.
President. Dalawa yun. Oo.
was 5.9, which is increase additions and reductions from
Yung support, yung RRW.
Final, but if you, it's not as simple as just right to say that right of way is done, pero may natagdag.
All of this is, I see. I see. So there's a right-of-way 10B. And then there were plus minus here. So this is the top figure, the net figure of increases and decreases. Mr.
Sa gas.
Net, the net of the decreases and increases in that. Mr. President, the right-of-way decrease is 10.8 billion. But within that, you have that paper. Within that, you will see increases and decreases. And the net decrease is 5.9, which is part, in this 10.8 is part of that 5.9 from the net, from the increase and decrease.
That's different. It's a total of more than 15 billion, Madam Sponsor.
No, if you see the
Kasi yung
list,
10.8, yun yung support operations, yun na nga yung road right of way.
yes.
Yung isa, general administration.
The 10.8 is right of way, they decreased that. And under the 5.9, we see support to operations, which is right of way. And there are others here of increase and decrease. And they say that the 5.9 is the net of all those increases and decreases.
Yung 5.9 billion, Madam Sponsor, general administration and support, hindi po sa road right of way. Yung
Yes.
support operations,
Correct.
yun yung 10.8. So
Yeah,
magkaiba
okay.
po yun.
Yung sabihin.
I'll tell you why I'm interested in finding out ito mga increases and decreases. Kasi sa House po nangyari ito eh. I want to find out where it went, all the reductions, saan po napunta, saan nirealign ng House. Again, I'd like to reiterate, I'm not blaming DPWH
You're saying lahat
for all these increases and decreases.
decrease, ito ang neto niya. Okay. Mr. President, the explanation is the 5.9 is the net suma total ng mga increase at decrease na kasama itong 10.8 na support to operations na right of way, because if we will see, there are increases and decreases under the 5.9. According to them, if you compute this, it will be a net decrease of 5.9
Sa programs.
in programs. Yes, Mr.
Pero sa
President.
support operations, 10.8 billion uli
Is
yun na
right of way.
decrease.
The
Road right of
10.8
way.
is devoted to right of way. That's a decrease,
Yes.
yes. Oo. But
So
this,
that's more than 15 total.
you don't add the 10 and the 5, right? Because the 10 is part of the column of the 5, correct? Mr. President, I'm informed that it's not 10 plus 5, because this 5.9 is the sum total of the increase and decrease, which would include the 10.8 support to operations decrease of the right of way. While there is a 10.8 decrease of right of way, there are also some increases in other areas, and if you net total this, it would be a net decrease of 5.9.
Okay. What programs and activities will be affected by the reduction, Madam Chair?
Halimbawa sa rehab, from 14 to 17, so nag-increase pa siya ng 2. Tapos yung protocol, nag-decrease yung by 15 from 22 to 22.
Okay. Yes, yes. Mr. President, as you mentioned earlier, the right-of-way decreased from 32 to 21. Okay, and an example of an increase would be rehabilitation, reconstruction of national roads from 14.9 to 17 billion for an increase of 2. So because of these changes, increase and decrease, the net suma total of that is a decrease of 5.9.
Yes. Anong programs yung naapektuhan ng reduction?
Yun nga ho, yung na-increase, na-apektuhan in a negative way.
Yes.
that-
Adversely affected.
Well, right of way, basically right of way, no? Yun lang ang malaki.
Yun po yung malaki.
Yeah, right of way, ano pa?
Ito po, lahat po ng
Hindi, positive yan, yung na-apektuhan decrease.
ito po, widening, kasi may mga issue ng right of way daw. Tapos, nag-increase yung bypasses.
Okay.
Ayan po. Ito po. CPP po, bawasan.
Oo, oo. So apart from the right of way, Mr. President, the PPP support fund, which also includes right of way, that's 4.6, nabawasan din yun.
Anyway, let's move on, Madam
Yes.
Sponsor. Yung sa Agno flood structures, control structures, phase 1 and phase 2. Merong 50 million dito. Hindi naman nagalaw, no? 50 million sa NEP, tapos sa GAB, 50 million. May we know the purpose of this item under support operations in relation to yung sa management services nila?
Agno River Basin. So there's a 50 million
Yeah, 50 million.
for maintenance. That's the annual maintenance. Mr. President, that's for the Agno maintenance. Is that first time? It's an annual. It's an annual allocation. It's an annual allocation, Mr.
Nga,
President.
phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes, Mr.
Meron
President.
po bang time frame yung Agno phase 1 and phase 2?
How long
Kasi
has it
taon-taon,
Taon.
labas ng labas tong Agno, hindi na matapos-tapos, Madam Chair. No? Agno River Flood Control Projects Appropriations, 2011.
Sino ang regional?
I have a chart, I have a slide.
Oo. Sana pag ganito lang ho, parang organized tayo. Pag may tanong sa region, I want the regional director to stand and brief me. Basta kung sinong specialty sa region na yun, sagot. Okay? So, ang tanong lang po, taon-taon ba ho may 50 at hanggang ilang taon ito? Hindi po tinatanong yung use. Ang tanong ba ho, hanggang anong taon po yung 50? Kailan po nagsimula? Kailan po? Kung talagang annual allocation. Taon-taon.
I'd like to invite your attention to the
Mr.
slide.
President, I am informed that it's an annual allocation because it's O&M, it's operation and maintenance. And so that's an annual allocation.
Imagine, 2011, 254 million. 2012, 50 million. 2013, 355 million. 2014, 418 million. 2015, 798 million. Then 2016, 1.2 billion or 1.3. 2017 sa NEP, 1.1 billion. Kailan ba matatapos itong Agno
Hindi raw
River na ito?
matatapos, taon-taon daw. Taon-taon daw kasi operations and maintenance.
But we're pouring in hundreds of
Yeah.
millions of pesos.
Yeah. Can you just tell me, okay, paliwanag lang po natin, saan po ginagastos? Kasi operations, the 50 is maintenance. Maybe just explain
Agno?
to us non-engineers. Ano po ang pinagagastosan ng 50 taon-taon?
Routine ina-identify ng region, LS
yung 50 na muna. Saan ginagamit?
Yung 50 na yan, yung mga repair ng dike.
Of the Agno River Basin.
Mahaba kasi yun. May nai-erode ng mga dike.
Mr. President, the 50, what I believe what you're showing on the screen is not for the O&M. Those are capital outlay, tama? But the 50M is for O&M. And that's an annual allocation, Mr. President, because that's needed for a river basin.
Maintenance.
May nag-erode, may nag-soil erosion.
So dredging.
I'm not sure if it's dredging. What is it? To maintain the dikes, Mr. President.
How about the river flood control projects, yung appropriations from 2011 to 2017? Ang tanong ko, kailan po matatapos yung phase 1 and phase 2? Hindi na tayo nakaahon doon sa phase 1 and phase 2. And we're pouring in hundreds of millions of pesos every year.
So, 1 minute. So, itong...
Ano yung suspension, Mr.
Okay,
President?
last na itong 2017. Last na po ito. Tapos, puro maintenance na. Yes. Okay, tapos na ang 1 and 2. Yes, itong 2017 NEP na 1.1B, that's phase 3.
Nakakapagod mag-interpolate sa dito. Malapit na akong...
Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session is resumed.
Tapos na ang 1 and 2. Sige. Agno 1 and 2 have been completed. And 2017 1.1 allocation, the capital outlay is for phase 3 of Agno. I am informed that 1 and 2 have been completed.
Completed.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now, let's take a look at the expenditure program of DPWH. And yan po sa iskita natin. Kindly justify, bakit nasa central office yung 67% ng budget ng DPWH at 33% lamang ang nasa mga regional allocation? What's the rationale behind this?
Nilay sa central pero di automatic download po ng central.
DBM lang nomenclature yung DBM. But actually,
Above, ano po yun? Above 50, above 50, na nilay sa central office, which will be automatically downloaded.
I am informed, Mr. President, that this will be automatically downloaded to the regions. It's to the implementing offices in the regions.
Once the GA is approved.
There's an automatic disbursement to the region. It will not be coursed to the central office
Pag-approve po ng GA.
once the GAA is approved. But somehow,
Why?
DBM put central office eh.
Yeah,
Oo.
but why? Kaya lumalaki yung unused kasi nga kung parating nakalodge sa central
Just to
office.
clarify, hindi dumadaan sa central office. So, DBM. Okay, it's nomenclature. Just like earlier when you asked me, it says central office, but once the GAA is approved, it goes directly. I understand your concern, I share it, because baka yun ang dahilan
Ng unused,
ng hindi
so much
ng
unused,
unused kasi dumadaan, hindi daw dumadaan. Ayon sa kanila, from DBM, it goes straight to the utilization in the regions, but somehow DBM has this nomenclature. Is there anyone from DBM here? Baka siguro ibahin natin yung salita kasi it's a misnomer.
Yes.
Kung
Pag sinabing
central office,
central office yun.
it would seem like it's a central office project and not a regional project. Oo. You're not, the central office does not
It's not
implement.
implementing. That
They're
is
not
correct.
implementing.
But why don't we just appropriate the budget to the regions and even district engineering offices? Sila mag-implement.
Okay, whatever it means, they say it's the budget system of DBM. So we have to ask DBM. DBM is here. Oh,
Yan pala
1 minute, Mr. President. Papaliwanag sa akin ba tawag central office. 1 minute suspension.
Since in-identify ng DP na central office, papasok siya regardless hindi siya.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Pero once na approve na po siya,
It goes straight.
yes ma'am. GAA as is the
Okay. Okay. Yes. Ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Just as I explained, Mr. President, it is the system in DBM that says central office, but once the GAA is
Approved.
signed, it goes straight to the implementing.
The releases, you mean?
The releases go straight to the regions.
Okay. Aside from the 500 million under the central office, meron pa pong appropriation for the CO under the region-wide, ano ba yung ano? Yan, region-wide, nationwide, amounting to 3.66 billion pesos. May we have an explanation to the sub-allocations?
Possibility po from CBE.
Kasi kung makita nyo sa table, nandyan na yung mga regions, pero merong item pa rin na central office.
So, nakilagay so, yun yung kailangan inuugnol pag may mga operational requirement. Automatic release yun. Automatic release kung pag nasa region.
Automatic.
What's the 500 million?
May 500 million. So, when you identify yung region, it's automatically going to be
Ito yung 500, favorite na?
ito po yung
Madam Chair, I hope DPWH, fully cooperates with us on this. Kasi, alam nyo, we just want to leave them on their own. Kasi pagka nagkaroon ng intervention sa House, pagdating sa, ang daming mga ginagel na funds dito. So, nawawala yung autonomy o yung galing ng DPWH na mag-implement kasi napapakialaman nga eh. No?
Okay, so what is
And that's exactly my point. I want to identify kung bakit nagkaroon ng juggling of funds under the House versions. Ang dami pong nagalaw.
what is it?
Session is suspended.
Oh, ano yung 500? Ah, yeah, pink, pink.
Lamsam nga eh.
Okay. So it's to augment the regional offices, operations. Mr. President,
Amendment ba yan? Amendment.
Mr. President, yes, ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I am assured that the 500 million is to augment the regional operations of the projects that have been allocated. And they are assuring you that this will not be used for political accommodation.
Bakit nga mag-augment, Madam Chair? Di ba may planning division?
Pagkulang daw ang mga proyekto, ay meron silang pagkukunan to augment.
You can only augment from savings, di ba? Paano ka mag-augment sa umpisa pa lamang ng 2017, meron ka na naka-reading augmentation, wala pa na-declare na savings?
No,
Di ba
Mr.
pinag-usapan
President,
na natin
because-
yung meaning of savings?
Yes. No, because their feasibility studies and it's not exact and the detailed design and all of that. So the 500 million is a standby fund to augment the operations in the region.
So you're declaring savings as early as
No.
during the
It's a
General Appropriations
standby
Bill deliberations?
augmenting kung kulang po yung
It's a standby fund, not considered as savings, with the intent of assisting the regions if the implementation based on the engineering design is lacking.
So what happens kung walang pwedeng o walang kailangang i-augment na projects or PAPs?
Ordinarily, they say, the allocation for central office is depleted, kulang pa nga ho.
No, but ang problema nga, how can you augment an item? Kasi you can only augment from savings, di ba? Pero kung wala pang savings, kasi yung savings dumarating to end of the year eh. Paano kung magkakaroon kagad ng
This is released
500
to the
million?
region when needed.
Sorry?
This is released to the region when needed.
As what? As augmentation?
May 5 billion na yan.
Is this in the NEP or in the GAB?
Gab, Mr. President.
It's
Sa NEP
only
pa
in
lang
the
ito,
GAB.
ano?
Nasa NEP?
NEP pa
Ah,
lang
sa
yan.
NEP.
Nasa
Hindi
NEP
ko
pa
na
lang,
alam.
yun na. It's in the NEP. And that's the practice, no? There's really an allocation for the region and there's a standby fund in central
Well,
office.
the issue raised by Senator Ping Lacson is very valid. This is a lump sum fund with no particular purpose, and you cannot use this for augmentation. Otherwise, we'll have augmentation amounts all over the budget. That's precisely what Senator Lacson is raising.
It is not considered savings per the DPWH. It is sub-allotted to the regions.
Sub-allotted for what?
For feasibility study?
For?
It's sub-allotted to the regions for their engineering designs. For existing projects or new projects? This 500, which is lodged in the central office, is sub-allotted to the regions when needed for feasibility study of future projects, so that
Is there no separate item for feasibility studies?
There
I'm
is,
sure
Mr.
there is.
President. There's 5.9 billion pesos for feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detailed engineering. Again, lodged in the central office. So, mag-augment pa ulit tayo ng 500 million.
siguro i-breakdown na lang niya. Maybe the best is for them to break it down and to explain the utilization so that it is not perceived to be a lump sum.
Now, even if you break it up per region, that is still, there is no specific project for which this money will be used. In other words, this is post-budget intervention on the part of the DPWH Secretary. Because at that point, then the Secretary is empowered to identify projects which will be funded by this lump sum appropriation of 500 million. Now, if the Congress cannot do that, I do not know why it can be done by a cabinet member.
I am informed, Mr. President, that this is not for the regional projects already ongoing, but it is for FS,
For?
engineering designs, and FS of other projects which may ensue. apart from the existing projects in the region, which will be allotted to the various regions.
Yes, but what the President is asking is, nasaan yung detailed explanation doon sa 500 million? Lump sum nga kasi walang item na naka-specify kung saan dadalhin.
It's a lump sum. Admittedly, it's a lump sum, Mr. President. Because, and every year you have that.
May lump sum po for central office.
Every year, they have that lump sum for central office, and they said that it is a standby fund for.
So, after the budget is passed and becomes a General Appropriation Act, the Secretary of Public Works under this setup is authorized to identify where this will be spent.
Yes, Mr. President.
Well, that's precisely what the PDAF is all about and declared unconstitutional.
Yun nga. Tama.
So pwede siya. According to the DPWH, the Secretary is allowed to sub-allot it to the regions for use in the regions,
Yes, po, for use in the region.
for new projects,
For feasibility study.
for feasibility studies of other
I'm sorry,
projects.
sorry.
It can be, the Secretary may or will sub-allot it to the regions for feasibility studies in the regions.
So, it is not so specified as a feasibility study. It can also be used to have a new project in the region.
Pang-design po.
Because it is a lump sum, it doesn't say it is for feasibility study.
Ang new project, pang-feasibility study. Hindi po hindi project. Pag sinasabi pala, hindi project.
Because it only says here, Mr. President, central office, 500 million. Nothing follows.
Yes, it's a lump sum. It is lodged in the central office. The Secretary has the authority to sub-allot it in the region for feasibility studies of programs, projects which may come along so that there's a standby fund for this.
Bakit hindi na lang sinama doon sa 5.9 billion na nakalatch din sa central office, feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detail engineering, central office, 5.9 billion. Bakit may separate pang 500 million to augment feasibility study?
Mr. President, it is explained to me that it's similar to the right-of-way, that there's no exact amount. We're not even sure if there's an allocation, just like the right-of-way, whether it can be spent or not. The others are spent. Sometimes it's more than the allocated amount. Sometimes there's a problem, it's not spent. In the same way as this, while there are already some allocations in the region, there needs to be some standby fund in the central office so that projects that may come along, you can start it by having a standby fund for proposed engineering design and feasibility studies for these projects which will be sub-allotted in the regions. That's the explanation to me, Mr. President.
Isn't that what exactly the Supreme Court struck down as unconstitutional in the PDAF cases?
I'm not the sponsor. Please answer, Madam Sponsor.
In their interpretation, Mr. President, it is not because it is, because it will be sub-allotted and it's really a standby fund. But if the,
Balik na naman tayo sa...
Can congressmen and senators also sub-allot?
no, Mr. President.
So, if
They-
the congressmen and the senators cannot sub-allot, why can the Secretary of Public Works sub-allot?
Because the Secretary, Mr. President, needs some flexibility because this is not an exact science. There may be projects which will ensue that will need funding, Mr. President. And so engineering studies, let's say there was an earthquake, bumuka ang lupa, at hindi natin na-project yan. So there must be, and there must be immediate engineering designs how to put together the roads and the mountains that fell into the roads, into the communities. So there would be a standby fund for feasibility studies and engineering designs because if these natural calamities. So there are, the Secretary needs some flexibility as to funds which could be readily available. And they assure me this will not be a kitty for political personalities.
Yes.
Anyway,
Right?
di ba merong NDRRMF?
No, example ko lang naman yung earthquake. What I'm saying is that it can be used for others. Yes. Example ko lang yung earthquake. Yung naisip ko kaagad. Siguro i-specify na lang yung Mr. President, Secretary Villar says that he will itemize it. They will specify the utilization of the 500 so that we know, number one, he has an elbow room, and second, we will also know, they will be transparent in the utilization of the 500 million.
Anong item, for example, Madam Chair?
Earthquake nga. Ano?
Kasi kung feasibility study, I repeat, merong 5.9 billion na nasa central office Kung road right-of-way, meron namang 32 billion na binawasan ng 10 billion. So, saan pa dadali yung 500 million?
Sa nakaraang taon, kay Secretary Singson, saan niya ginamit yung central office lump sum? Sige na. Ayan na yung nanay. Sige, lagot kayo.
Dito na yung nanay. I will terminate my interpellation.
Nanay, nanay.
1 minute suspension.
Paniwala niyo sa akin. Bigyan niyo isa lang example na pinagamitan ng central office. Yun lang naman soil exploration. Ano pa? Anong gawa sa bridges? I can't just say Ready to resume, Mr. President. Sige. Actually, naintindihan ko takot lang sila sa lump sum. Pero ito, taon-taon meron. We're ready. We're ready. Para maayos tayo ganito ha. Ganito para maayos. Kasi mahaba pa ito buong araw ko hanggang gabi. Si Yusek Cabral ang kausap ko. Tapos, all of you, just give her the inputs or kung sinong region or kung technical gano'n. Because this is not legal, it's really technical. I need a technical answer. Why is it needed? And let's always make it based on experience. And you also cite, kasi rin some time, we were Villar's time, you've been like for 50 years. So, one of the things that, because they're not engineers, we're not engineers. So, we just want to make sure it will not be a source of graft, it will not be a source for political accommodation. Yun ang ibig nyo sabihin dito. Mr. President,
Are we ready to resume?
we're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Yes. Mr. President, first, there really is a need for the standby fund in the Office of the Secretary for soil analysis, for bridges, when they will have to do boring tests, they have to analyze the soil. This is allocated annually, Mr. President, because sometimes when they're building certain infrastructure like bridges in the regions and it's not augmentation. For new bridges, for new projects. So it's really for planning, for FS, for new detailed design. So, Mr. President, this is needed for planning for incoming projects in the regions, which will be sub-allotted in the regions for engineering design, FS, and, yes. Dalawa na ang sponsor. Oo. As I mentioned, Mr. President, iba pa po yung allocation sa mga ongoing projects. There are projects which have to be studied, so the engineering design and the FS, ito ang paggagamitan na pondo para advance for the next projects.
Mr. President, ito, kung tingnan natin yung page 847, this is GAB, ano? Yes, sir. Ng GAB. Yung mga allocations sa mga regions, itemized eh. Except yung central office, talagang walang itemization noong 500 million. So, bakit yung iba meron? Bakit yung central office wala?
Kasi nga ho, Mr. President, ito talagang meron ng allocation ng mga regions for projects already planned and existing projects. But there are needs that can come about, and there are projects which may come about because of those needs, and it would need FS and engineering designs, just like what I said, they will analyze the soil, kung magkakaroon ng boring, paglulubog ng pondasyon, so kailangan na hindi naka-allocate dito, kailangan may pagkukuhanan na pondo.
Ano yung office under the DPWH na nag-analyze ng soil? Di ba DNR ang gumaganon or DOST?
No, iba pa yung sa this is
Detailed
they analyze the soil
engineering.
for the structure of the bridge or whichever they will.
As
Iba yung
pointed out-
soil analysis sa DA, iba yun for agriculture use. Iba pa yung soil analysis, matigas ba, kaya ba niya yung pondasyon, ganun. Sa engineering naman.
As pointed out by the presiding officer during the break, ano, merong 5.9 billion para sa feasibility study, etc., detail engineering. Hindi ba mas simple? Ilagay na lang yung 500 billion doon, gawing 6.4 billion, tapos lagyan ng
Financial study kaysa nakapark
lagyan ng mga
sa
items.
process na walang definition. Pwede? Yes. Oo. Okay. Yes. Yes, Mr. President.
But how soon can you prepare now the items under the yung sa feasibility study? Kasi itemized na yung 5.961 billion eh. Eh wala ngang item kasi for the 500 million. So ano ngayon ang ilalagay nyo?
Because
Para may
this,
6.4.
they can distribute it in the region so that there's a standby fund for those needs, Mr. President.
Mr. President, let's not talk of standby fund kasi masamang pakinggan.
Proportional lang doon sa
Kasi that's discretionary when we say standby fund.
Contingency kasi usually 10%. The rule of thumb, 10% of the budget. So yung 500 is 10% of budget. Usually, maski sa business, 10% of contingency.
Meron na. Mr. President, there are two options. First, to put it in the sub-allotted immediately in the regions, or to put it in the engineering design and the feasibility study. Because clearly, Mr. President, even if you construct a simple home, talagang may nakalaan na pa yung contingent, o hindi eksakto. Oo. Nagkulang yung materyales. Force majeure, may nangyari, na ulan, na ganun. So, talagang kailangan may pagkukuhanan. So, whether it should be in the 5.9 of the FS and engineering design or sub-allotted in the region, or we can allow it to stay there with an explanation for its exact utilization.
Expected cost.
Or the,
Instead of contingency, this is based on our expected costs, based on our experience.
yes, what do you prefer? Distribute to regions.
Yeah, we'll distribute to regions based
They-
on our expected costs.
Yes, they can distribute it to the regions, Mr. President, based on their expected cost.
Okay. Page 850 ng GAB, Volume 1-B. Again, there's a 150 million allocation for the central office for feasibility study, project development, preliminary and detailed engineering. May we know the details of this item? Another 150 million lodged in the central office for feasibility, the same item. On top of the 5.9, on top of the 500. Katakot-takot naman itong feasibility study na ito, Madam Sponsor.
Although in fairness, mahal talaga yung feasibility.
Yeah.
Nasa net din ba yun?
Ayan. Pati yan. Hindi, ayun eh. Lucky, ano nga yun? Same page. Central office.
150 million. Flood control. Ito po yung description.
Okay. So, ano yung central office na 150? Same thing. Flood control, may contingent fund for public.
Contingent na naman.
Mr. President, again, it says central office. They can already sub-allot it to the region based on the need and expected cost in the region so that it does not look like a lump sum. But this is the contingent cost in flood control in the central office, but perhaps it would be advisable to distribute it in the region.
No, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, nakalagay dito B, no? Flood control, that's 543 million pesos, no? And then feasibility, item number 1, feasibility study, detailed engineering, design for major principal river basins, ano? 343 million. Nakadistribute na po ito, itemized Cagayan River, puro under feasibility study. Consultancy services for the master plan, Tagum, Libuganon River, tapos Abulug River, Abra River, and then all of a sudden, letter H, Central Office, 150 million. Naka-itimas na nga po lahat yung feasibility study. Tapos bigla na namang may feasibility study sa Central Office.
1 minute suspension.
Yan ang masasek. Exacto. Exacto. Yeah, that's right. So that it's not kasi lang sa
Ganun din yung ibang condition. Kung yun ang bawal na babae,
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
So you will sum allot it to the region.
ganun din po sa
To avoid any questions on purported lump sums, Mr. President, it will be sub-allotted in the region based on the expected cost of the various projects lodged in the region, because this was really meant, just like the other item, was a contingent fund in case all of those that were mentioned above would need additional. But what they would do is to compute it and put it in the regions.
When, Mr. President? When will that happen? Before, it should happen before we pass the
Yes,
The
Mr.
General
President.
Appropriations Act.
Within the next few days, no? Within the next few days.
Okay. Again, next slide, please. Payments of right of way, Ito yung nabawasan ng 10 billion. Items 1 and 2 under letter B, payments of right of way, various completed projects nationwide, 5 billion pesos. Various ongoing projects nationwide, 4.062 billion pesos. These are lump sums, Mr. President. So kindly provide the details.
Oo. Kulang pa yung pondo. Oo.
ayun, kaya lang ma'am.
Mr. President, there's a list of all these projects, and
Indigab?
according to
Ano ba sa gab?
the DPWH, the funds allocated is even lacking for all the projects that need to be done.
Yes, nasa GAB ba ito or nasa NEP?
Yung listahan.
Wala po kasi, ma'am, kasi syempre yung pagbabayad, depende
So lump sum ito. Pag pinasa natin yung budget
sa complete.
ng walang items, these are lump sum appropriations. More than 9 billion.
Hindi po mali ako. Kasi yung pag-process din po,
In contrast, Mr. President, in contrast to item number 3, payment of utility relocation including electric cooperatives, Meralco and others. Number 4, projects with private sector participation includes Mindanao Avenue to NLEX, Commonwealth Avenue to NLEX, President Garcia Avenue, segment 8, 2, 9, and 10, NLEX to Letre, including Harbor Link projects. Bakit ito walang description? Samantalang iba pwede namang i-describe. Payments of right of way.
Mr. President, it would be difficult to do a line item provision on right-of-way projects nationwide because we are not certain how the courts would decide on the cases, whether the DPWH will be successful in expropriating these areas, and so a line. Huh? But actually, there are pending right-of-way projects here. Ito po kakapal. Oo.
Can the sponsor speak to the microphone, please?
There's a list of all right-of-way claims, Mr. President, but it would be difficult to list everything down because of, it's just complicated because it involves the courts and payments for right-of-way acquisition.
Pero as I mentioned earlier, may mga description yung iba eh. Andito, definite eh.
Maybe these are the big-ticket
Unlike the first
projects.
two items, talagang lump sum din eh.
These are the big-ticket items, Mr. President. But there's here, there's 50 pages of all the right-of-way projects, Mr. President. Ito, Mr. President, 50 pages of
That's 45 billion.
5 billion. In fact, it's 23 billion worth. Kaya nga po sinabi ko ay kulang pa tong 5 billion. It's all of this.
Sa akin na ba to? Sa akin na to?
Hindi.
Pwede ba ibigay? Kanina na lang.
Reproduce na lang namin.
They'll reproduce it, yeah. So, it's 23 billion worth. Kung sino magpabayad, kung sino babayaran, no? Oo. So,
But ang issue, Mr. President, is if we pass the budget with lump sum amounts of 5 billion and 4 billion plus, wala namang sa NEP, wala naman sa GAB. What are we appropriating for?
we're appropriating for right-of-way acquisition, which are included in the 23 billion worth of projects line item, but we are not certain which of those will be speedier insofar as the courts are concerned and the owners, so we cannot be certain about and include it in the NEP, in the GAB, or in the GAA, because it's an evolving thing, because it's in the courts.
Shouldn't it be part of the feasibility study and the planning? Alam na natin kung ano yung priorities natin for 2017.
But these are all right-of-way projects which the DPWH is already involved with, but for a one-year timeline, they're not certain which of that ang aayos nila that they should pay and which will be continuing. That's the reason why they've allocated this. Kung anong mauunang babayaran yan, hindi nila sigurado yon. So mahirap mag-line item, tas masasayang kung hindi maayos sa may-ari, sa korte, ganun. At merong iba naman papayag, hindi naman na-allocate. Di ba? Hindi nyo ma-project. And DBM will not release the funds unless there are no supporting documents for the right-of-way acquisition.
Ito bang item number 4, siguradong papayag? Projects with private sector participation. Ito yung mga President Garcia Avenue, Tuletre. Sigurado bang papayag ito? As presented do sa items 1 and 2 na baka hindi pumayag?
Yes, that's a priority project. Yes, Mr. President. Papayag daw po yung sa mga numerong linista nila.
Pero sa first 2 items, hindi siguradong papayag.
Because these are more projects. Yun yung listahan na binigay ko, 50 pages. And among those 50 pages, yun ang mag-fall into 1 and 2, right?
Ito kasi yung contradiction na Mr. President, Madam Sponsor. While the specific section segments are identified, may mga location per segment papakita ko mamaya. Pero meron namang hindi indicated, no? Like ito, yung sa next slide. Central Office, out of the 4.895 billion, meron na namang naka-appropriate sa Central Office na 3.652 billion. Pero if we go further, meron dito naka-specify, example ng project covering varying segments. Ito, this Bacolod, Murcia, and so forth and so on. Maraming may mga specifications, mga specified ng items, but bakit kailangan meron pang lump sum na nakalodge sa Central Office na 3.6 billion pesos?
Mr. President, those which are enumerated and it specifies a project have already been thoroughly studied and validated, while there have been, it's been settled in the courts, and there's a court order for the expropriation, and the right-of-way can be secured. But as I said, for 1 and 2, these are other pending right-of-way cases in the courts which cannot be listed in the NEP or the GAB because these are ongoing.
Take note, Mr. President, sa NEP, primary roads, 4 billion, this is billion, 4,128,000,000 pesos 637. Pagdating sa GAB, na-increase ito ng 166 million. Secondary roads, pagdating sa GAB, nag-increase na naman ng 410 billion. Tertiary roads, nag-increase na naman ng 370 million. Do you have an explanation for all these increases? Tapos malalad sa central office.
One minute suspension.
Okay. Ready to resume, Mr. President. Ah. Basta.
Kasi that's a engineering language, but I don't know if it's a EBM language. Yes.
Session is resumed.
Yes, Mr. President, the adjustments in the primary, secondary roads which are on the screen is part of what we discussed earlier, where there was a reduction insofar as the right-of-way is concerned, and adjustments or increases in reconstruction and upgrading of national roads with a net decrease of 5.9. This is part of the page that we were discussing earlier.
Yes, sa mga succeeding slides, makita natin talagang specific mga items. Yung mga segments ng roads, yan, sunod-sunod po yan. May description talaga. Pero bakit yung iba walang ganyan description? Bakit inconsistent? Yan, marami naman projects na by segment talaga identified. National Capital Region, Central Office. Maski maliliit na items, naka-identify. Meron pang 2 million, may 3 million, 5 million.
Constructive doesn't have the same mapping as national. Because national is we have a system that maps out.
All these details are in national roads now. Yeah. Mr. President, all these details that we see now are national roads, but the local roads don't have this detailed mapping when they're local roads.
Okay, next slide na lang para ano. Again, almost 100% of the budget for the primary roads along N1 is lodged under the central office. Ano pong reason behind this? 17.9 billion.
Yun na naman ang ginamit nilang salita. Yun na naman ho yung code. Anong code o gamit ng DBM na system. Diba? Nandito ang DBM. Yun na naman. But it's actually region. It's actually implemented in the region, but that's the code being used, code reference by DBM.
Madam Sponsor, ano po bang threshold ng, say, District Engineering Office, Regional Office? How much can they implement
District.
or,
For
say, for DE, magkano?
50. Regional. Ang district. Oo. The district can implement up to 100, Mr.
100.
President.
Yung regional director, up to
Anything above 100. Anything above
all the way up,
100.
anything above. Wala nang threshold yon.
The region can implement anything above
So
the...
kung gano'n naman pala, bakit hindi na lang natin nga i-download sa mga regional offices, even to the district engineering offices, yung pondo, why should we lodge majority or most of the funds in the central office? Eh pwede naman pala sila mag-implement ng walang threshold yung RD. Di ba mas mabilis ang implementation pag ganon? Dahil naka-download na yung resources, naka-itemize na, and it's up to the district engineers or the heads of the engineering district engineering offices and even the regional officers, regional directors to implement. At least identified na nila, naka-itemize na, alam na nila yung gagawin nila. Bakit kailangan nasa central office lahat? Bumabagal po dahil lahat ng decision nanggagaling pa sa central office.
Mr. President, it is not released to the central office. In fact, once the GAA is approved, it is downloaded to the regions.
Then why don't we just specify in the GAB or in the NEP na talaga ang appropriation para sa regional director or regional office or sa district engineering office? Bakit kaya i-lodge pa natin sa central office? I might be able to provide some answers, Mr. President. Next slide. Details of DPWH program projects, page 961. Ito siguro sagot, ba't kailangan na sa central office? Arteche, Barangay, Kalumsan, Hipapad, Las Navas, Katubig-Rawis Road, including bridge, Northern Samar, 2nd Legislative District. Arteche, Barangay Katumsan, Hipapad, Las Navas, Katubig-Rawis Road, Northern Samar, 2nd Legislative District. Why do we have to identify these items as per legislative district? What is the connotation? Meron naman district engineering offices. Bakit hindi natin doon ilagay? Bakit puro LD ito?
It has nothing to do with SOP, Senator Lacson.
I did not hear anything, Mr. President. Bacon, Manito Road, including bridge and slope protection, Sorsogon, 1st Legislative District. Bayawan, Kabangkalan Road, including road right-of-way, Negros Oriental, 3rd Legislative District. Barangay, Boundary, Bukidnon, Agusan del Norte, 1st Legislative District, Package 1. May package pa. The question is why, Mr. President?
There is a pending question to the sponsor. Can she respond?
Mr. President, Madam Chairperson, sana huwag kayo magalit sa akin, ha?
Hindi pa.
Bati pa rin tayo.
Suspend. Very good to
Suspend mo.
suspend muna.
Sige.
Hindi pa ako galit sa Vice Chair.
Sige.
May request for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute. Designation and district has nothing to do with the SOP.
Two congressional districts. So it's easier to specify. Talaga, there's one.
Maraming one is one district. Entities ko sama dalawa yun.
Okay. Okay. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I'm informed that in some areas where there is one district engineer, there are 2 legislative districts. And other areas where there are 2 legislative districts, 1 is to 1. So it's not all the same. So perhaps for these areas where there's 1 DE but 2 legislative districts, to identify the congressional or legislative district will be more efficient for them.
Then identify na lang natin yung district engineering office, Mr. President.
Correct. But sometimes, Mr. President, there's 1 district engineering office and there's 2 congressional or legislative districts. They
Yes,
share 1
pero,
DE.
Pero may description na po eh. Bacon, Manito Road, including bridge and slope
Okay,
protection.
let's delete all. In short, we should not be napakatrapo eh. Oo, yun ibig sabihin.
Can I request the chair to speak to the microphone? So
That was
we-
not meant for the microphone, Mr.
okay.
President. Yes.
Is this for proper identification
Correct.
kung kaninong legislative district, yung proponent? Kasi wala po ito sa NEP yata eh, nasa GAB eh. So kailangan bang ma-identify natin kung sinong proponent?
It's only in the gap, right? Yes, Mr. President. And so, perhaps in the whole DPWH budget, let us delete the legislative district and just, it's an engineering district, and it says the barangay, the road. I don't
That
think the congressman from
That is exactly my point.
the left will intervene with the congressman on the right.
That is exactly my
Right.
point, Baka lang magkawalaan.
Ha?
Baka magkawalaan.
Maliwanag
Madam
naman
Sponsor.
kung anong barangay na hindi naman sakop ng congressional district nung kabila.
Then, I'm trying
Diba, tama ba
to
yun?
point out, ano bang reason ba't nilagyan ng legislative district? Eh kung tatanggalin natin, Mr. President, baka magkawalaan kung sino yung naglagay doon.
Teka, Mr. President, sasagutin ko yan. Nakalagay naman yung barangay eh. So maliwanag, yung exact location nakalagay. So hindi naman ilipat sa iba dahil naka-line item naman eh, di ba? So hindi na kailangan.
Line item nga,
the
maganda na nga
LD
sana.
is only a reiteration or dagdag na lang na impormasyon na pwede natin tanggalin kasi ang pangit na tignan. So ilagay na lang yung location and let's rely on engineering districts. Tama? Diba?
Tama, Mr. President. There must be a reason for specifying what legislative district. Tatanungin natin.
Agree.
Yes.
You see, Vice Chair, to abbreviate this, everything you're saying, I'm agreeing to. So, we can actually take away and delete the practice of using legislative districts. So, if they want to, if the congressmen want to identify, they have their own, they have their district. No, they can coordinate whatever with the district offices. That's beyond us. But in the transmittal of the GAB here, henceforth, there should be no legislative district indication.
I hope the DPWH family knows or understands where I'm coming from. Ano? Kasi madadama yung implementing agency rito. Eh. Di ba nakakasuhan din yung mga implementing agencies? So, again, for the education of Senator...
You're actually cleaning up the budget and protecting the implementing agency.
Yes, that is correct.
We appreciate that, Mr. President.
And for the education of Senator De Lima, ano ba ibig sabihin ng package 1, package 2, package 3?
What is package? Ano ngayon? Ano ngayon?
Contract packages po na.
This is first contract, second contract, hindi package.
O, by contract pa. Bakit kailangan natin malaman yung contract?
Hindi naman, wala nang mali sa package. Yeah, contract. Phases. Okay. Mr. President, it's nomenclature yan it's a nomenclature in engineering or in the construction of projects. Phase 1. It means package 1, phase 1, the first phase of the project, huh?
Tanong na natin.
I'm sorry? Segment 1. So whether you use, but yun ang ginagamit since time immemorial sa engineering. Okay, because we are not engineers, so it seems looks like it looks malicious, right? But it is not. It is
It's just a nomenclature.
it is their technical
technical.
wording for the first phase of the project. It's not the package that you are.
At this point, I want to give Senator Recto his chance and his time. Ano? I'd like to
Yes.
suspend my interpellation. Depende kung masarap ang kakainin ko, hindi na ako babalik.
Meron
Madam Sponsor. So, with the permission of the chair and the body, may I just suspend my interpellation without prejudice to terminating it later.
All right, the sorry, the
And may I
interpellation,
request for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension.
ikaw talaga.
Senator Gordon is next.
Ikaw talaga eh. Oh, ayun, oh. Yeah. Mr. President, we're ready to resume.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader,
Mr. President, for the next interpellation, would like to recognize Senator Richard Gordon.
Sen-
I'm sorry, the sponsor has given up. Has asked for a few minutes, Mr. President. So I move to suspend.
suspended once more.
emergency room? Saan lugar? Saan lugar? Ito ba yan? Can you show it to me? Ano yan? Mayroon ba dyan, Subit?
sa PAB, hindi pwede sa construction. Basta mo nag-relax ka. It's competition of the reason. Then gets practice. Jaga din na talaw na. In function, meron jaga doon. One project lang, pwedeng panalo na rin sa construction. Kung nasa condition sa mga how to implement it. Hindi siya. Independent po. Independent procurement ng Construction Supervision Council at saka yung there is the limitation pero sa sinakros na ayaw ng judge ng jacket na limiting na gano'n. Nag-usapan yung sa tanong technology. It's about time sabi ko na may educate tayo. Kasi gagawin na naman siya rin tapos yung bypass mga tayo sa bulo. Sa suggestion ko, hindi magpadala tayo ng-explore sa Japan. Pagkanan technology, so na tayo. Pag-outsource tayo ng resulta para maitigil natin sa global media. A year from now, or 2, gagawin na yung panel. Wala tayo sa pay item. Walang available ano, no? Puro mga lang, 3 FTs per share. Dapat mag-ready na tayo doon. Pero na dumating. Yes, sir. Para ma-integrate na sa blue book natin. 3 FTs, sir. Conceptual lang, sir. Conceptual lang, sir. Kagaya, sir, tapos hindi ba? Full blown na yun, sir. Yes, ano po? Usually siya, pati yung detail din siya, mas matay pa. Sabi ko rin. There is really a need now to capacity ourselves. Yung sa tunnel technology. At sa wala sa blue book natin. Tuwing from now, ma-implement yung Davao City Bypass, meron tunnel para sa blue book. Wala tayong in-house at saka local expertise para sa. Diba? Audi ka pa. Well, business scholars sa Japan. They said the local verified Japanese expert to be master. Nagkaroon na siya ng road construction and bad control. JICA is willing to, ano naman siya, to share. But we will send na expert doon for schooling. Wala tayong basya magbayad. Advent talaga ng tunnel technology mo. Hot water, Rodero kaya sabi. No, sis, alam mo yan. That's it, tama na. Yes, so lang sa natin. Dumating daw yung Chato, yung pursuit natin. Sa Bohol earthquake at saka yung sa ating Jera. Wag rin. Pasko na tayo. Di ba? Di ba? Sa diversion natin sa Davao. Oh, yun yan. To be prepared. Wala nga sa brief natin. Kaya nga dapat may budget natin. Wala na siya. Para may budget. Meron na siya. Dito rin siya, Rondo. Kasi yung government natin Start mo yun na. Start mo na yan, ha? Magpagal tayo ng scholar. Mag-request ka ng gawin ng scholar para sa schools. Kaya kung pwede, yung scholar ko yung busog na niyon, asa gawa na tayo. Ay,
Wala akong plano. Plano ko sa period of amendment lang. Ito lahat ng mga isang mga
You will ask? Okay. Mahaba.
Well, okay.
Ready.
We're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Ready.
Session is resumed.
Before the break, we were asking that Senator Richard Gordon be recognized for the continuing interpellations on the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. With the permission of the Senate President, I just have a few questions, and I'm sure and I hope the gentle lady, the lovely lady, would answer some questions. Do I have your permission?
Yes, Mr. President, please proceed.
Thank you very much. As you know, there's an awful lot of development going on seaports, airports. On the seaport systems budget is about 2.67 billion. Is that correct? Airport systems budget for 2017 is 5.71 billion. Railways is 15.34 billion.
Access roads to seaports and airports, Mr. President.
Those are access roads, right? When you build these access roads, who are your partners? I'm sure you partner with the Department of Transportation. Is that correct? And all this is in accordance with the plan or the vision, or let's say, of tourism.
Yes, Mr. President.
And Department of Trade also. So when you take a look at Central Luzon, and apart from the problems of flooding, which I will ask later, you are expanding the North Expressway going all the way up to Baguio, and along the way you're also doing the Subic-Clark Highway, which has been improved already, if I'm not mistaken. Are there any other things that have to be done there?
Subic-Clark Highway. Is it still? Subic-Clark
Can I have somebody here with me here so when I ask a question I can...
The SETEX is complete, the Subic-Clark Highway, Mr. President. There are still access roads, but the main highway of the SETEX is complete.
Would you have any idea, Your Honor, how much the government has spent if you include the North Expressway under Marcos and then under Gloria Macapagal Arroyo? There was a borrowing from the Bucci Fund, and then there was expansion of highways interconnecting these major infrastructures of Subic, Clark, and Manila, and now another highway that is going to go to Batangas Seaport. But all I wanted to find out, Mr. Chairman, is, Mr. President, is I'm sure the DPWH, being a responsible agency, is aware that infrastructure is an investment for the nation, not only in terms of employment, but also in job generation. It will raise our GDP, provided these are maximized. In other words, it's not just an end-all program that, you know, where most politicians, including some of us here, will say, oh, this is a project of Senator so-and-so or a project of Governor so-and-so. It's got to have a meaning. And I would like to know, in the case of Subic, Clark, and Manila, this is a vision that I have been saying for so long, as early as 1972, 1971, when I was still at the Constitutional Convention, that if you connect all this, there's a highway system connecting the airports and the seaports. Obviously, there are tourism benefits from the destination itself of Subic and Clark. But upon the other hand, there are also lands that will be traversed. And I don't know whether in the course of planning all this, the DNR is involved in making sure that we can create special economic zones, for example, in Bulacan, in Pampanga, in Tarlac, in Pangasinan. Along the way between Subic and Clark, you can have some in Bataan, some in Pampanga again, and even in Zambales. Meaning to say, when we build a highway or we build something like that, which provides speed and, ease of travel, we will be making sure that there is also a boost in the sense that we can now invite, let's say we go abroad or the president goes abroad, we can identify a certain land area that will be enhanced by this. For example, you can say, for example, in the case of Ayala, I understand they bought 1,000 hectares in Porac. Or for that matter, in the case of the Iglesia ni Cristo, they have their area in Bukawi. And this should really spur development, because once you have lands that are properly subdivided, then the investment of multi-billions will be well worth it. Are we aware that is happening? Are we aware? Is there coordination by the DPWH with the DNR that they can set aside land, or is there any effort on the part of the Department of Trade to encourage landowners in the area that they should become Central Luzon Incorporated, so that when we go out and ask investors to come in, you can actually identify them?
Yes, Mr. President. The DPWH coordinates closely with the other agencies of government, including the DOTR and the BCDA, and they've allocated funds in support of the creation of the Clark Green City, for example.
Oh, I'm aware of that, but that's inside Clark. I'm talking about the areas along the highway. The best example of that would be Calabarzon. When you pass the South Expressway, you will have Laguna being the Detroit capital, Santa Rosa, and you can go all the way down to Batangas, where the seaport is now enhanced by other industrial parks outside the zone. In Subic and in Clark, for example, I can tell you in Subic, they loaded it with all kinds of investments that are not well worth the infrastructure that we put in there. In the past, we got FedEx, we got all these things, and I'm not trying to say I'm better than they, but some people are in a hurry to put in any investments. What I'm saying is, outside of Subic, along the highway, outside of Clark, along the highway, in all the areas in that area, protected from floods, enhancing what we have put in, I don't think there is any effort. I just want to know for my purposes, because I'll be here for the next 5.5 years, whether there is such an effort being undertaken so that the infrastructure that we put in would be well worth it, because we're going to generate employment. Because you can see, I can tell you right now, there is no coordination. The Iglesia put up that Bukawi area, and they even prevented them from getting the benefits of the law that we authored here, which is the Tourism Infrastructure Enterprise Zone Authority. And up to now, there is this big brouhaha between them and Customs and Finance. So we build highways only later on to find out that we are not decongesting Manila. We're not dispersing industries, and there's no more room for other investments that we could bring in because the lands are not utilized and are not planned for. I hope my point is being appreciated here, because it takes an awful lot of vision, I think, to be able to be successful at that. So my question is there such a program? Because maglalagay tayo ng highway, tapos wala naman palang nakahanda doon, mamaya i-squatan, wala na naman mangyayari.
So master plan, what you're referring to is a master plan in coordination
Oh,
with
I'm sure there's a master
DOTR.
plan somewhere along the way, but the master plan ends up, like I say, into claiming, oh, we did this, we did the highway. So what? How many jobs did you create? How much investments came in out of that highway? Those are the questions that I would love to ask you. For example, in the case of Iloilo, when you put up the airport in Iloilo, obviously it should have enhanced with all the roads that have been built there. And I'm filled with admiration at the wide roads that are there. You can see that right away. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this big corporation came in, owned by sino nga ba yan? they're putting up a mall there, a big mall along those highways, no? And between the airport and Iloilo, there should be now areas where people can invest or put in their money. That's what I'm looking
I
at.
clearly understand what you're saying, that we should plan our infrastructure spending by allowing government agencies to coordinate with those who own much of the land in those areas where the roads will be traversing. And so we should not build roads to nowhere, but actually roads to these possible economic zones.
We should build roads and highways that offer speed, that offer ease of getting into by way of investments by those who would want to invest there because, oh, the government built 3 airports there, Subic, Clark, and Manila. And they have 4 seaports, Mariveles, Subic, and then Manila, and then, of course, Batangas. If we're doing that, then you have a package that you can sell. My first job was in marketing, then I became a lawyer, then I became a builder in Subic, I became all these things. And I know from my experience that if you have something to sell, if you have an industrial park, before you built it, you had that vision, then easily you can subdivide and it's easier to go there. Right now, pag nagpunta yung tao doon, saan ako magtatayo ng negosyo ko dyan? More often than not, pagka may mga mabibilis na mga operator dyan, tuturo sa nguso. Doon. Pag tinuro sa nguso, sino may-ari dyan? Teka muna, kakausapin muna natin. Tapos magtatagal tayo kay mayor, magtatagal tayo kay governor. Yun ang mga problema ang aabutin ng mga tao natin pagka ginawa niya. Kaya sayang. And I don't want it to be sayang. Because to my mind, when you build infrastructure, you're not just giving ease of travel by the passengers in an airport, you're opening doors for investments. And that's what we must remember in whatever department we're in. So the answer obviously is there is no plan.
No, that's there's for every
In tourism, I know there is a plan.
trading industries and so all most major departments have converged.
There's a convergence program, Mr. President, for every department. They coordinate closely with the DOTR, with the Department of Tourism, and with the DTI as well. So
If
that
there
the
is such a
roads will be
thing,
built will serve a purpose.
Can the gentle lady tell me which areas have been identified beyond Bukawi,
Give an example.
in Marilao,
Convergence program.
in San Fernando, in Tarlac?
Just give me one example.
Like I'm looking at the gentleman from Bulacan, and I'm sure. Bakit? Huh? Now, over and above that, if I may continue as you're discussing,
They're mentioning about the expansion of the area in BGC, Loton, which belongs to BGC, the access road or the going to Clark Green City. So these are convergence projects with the BCDA.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to show how that we're better than the department, but let me just tell you, when you build a Makati, for an example, you are coming out of Manila and you're saying, oh, we're building Makati, we're being here, we'll streamline everything here, and people will be attracted to coming over. When you build infrastructure, businessmen like that. Ang di ko nakikita talaga, and I've been in the cabinet, and I've tried to push this in the cabinet. That's why I was asked by President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo at the time, saan tayo magtatayo ng airport? And I always tell them, there must be a convergence between not just tourism but investments. For example, Palawan, when you build that highway, ang laki ng gagastusin mo from Puerto Princesa to go to that underground river. And you're going to put up an airport in Busuanga and in Puerto Princesa and hopefully in the south. Because ang layo ng Palawan, kasi ang layo ng Luzon ang haba niyan di ba? Halos. So, yun ang sinasabi ko na mukhang kulang tayo doon. Because wala kayong masabi. Ang papapel talaga, hindi lang public, but the private sector. That is why Ayala is already in Clark in a Porac. Nakikita na nila yan. Pero tayo, kailangan tulungan natin ang public sector para masabi, oh, itong mga lupang ito, i-organize yan into Central Luzon Incorporated. That's the most ideal. But if not, you get a group of businessmen and say, magkano ba yung lupa ninyo, magkano nyo paparent. Dahil gagawa kami ng highway dyan, tataas ang real estate value ninyo, makikinabang kayo, at makikinabang rin ang mamamayang Pilipino. Meron o wala? Wala. I'm not trying to pin you down.
No.
I just want to make sure.
To be
that-
fair, they are.
No, I'm not being unfair. Because Mark is new. Secretary Villar is new.
Mr. President, there's a list here of PESA proposed access roads.
Can the sponsor speak on the microphone?
There's a list here, Mr. President, of access roads in PESA areas. For example, the Baguio City Economic Zone and the projects leading to those economic zones. Carmel Ray, Light Industry and Science Park. So there's a couple of roads here in PESA proposed access roads leading to economic zones and industrial areas, which the good gentleman is referring to.
My point is not the roads. The roads are easy. It is the coordination of making sure that the local government there, that the Department of Trade, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources can hasten the establishment of zones para hindi sayang yung investment. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to catch you or anything like that. All I'm saying is I'm trying to add vision so that those of you at the DPWH will say, magtatanong kayo next time, o magtatayo tayo dyan. Kailangan meron tayong industrial park dyan sa tabi dyan. Kailangan meron, sino may-ari ng lupa dyan na malaki na pwedeng kausapin, magtatayo kami dyan, maganda na kayo, pwede na yung isumama sa mga trade missions para ipakita na, you know, when I took over Subic, kahit na-develop yun, I had to talk to the World Bank. And the World Bank gave me money to make sure that the little master plan was incorporated because the Taiwanese wanted it. And they want, o saan kami lalagay dyan? Hindi ko pwede sabihin doon. So I found a 300-hectare area and I borrowed money from the World Bank and the Taiwanese and they put up the zone. So ngayon, andun ang Acer, andun ang Wistrom, andun ang mga kumpanya. Papasok sila doon. Parang ginagawa ng mga developers ng lupa, magtatayo sila ng kalsada, magsasubdivide sila, tapos sabihin na, ito ang presyo. May tubig na yan, may power na yan, pasok na kayo. Dito sa negosyo, mukhang wala tayo nun kaya tayo napag-iiwanan. Gagawa tayo para whoever is a politician can beat his chest. Ako nagpagawa niyan. Pero pagdating sa oras, asan ang trabaho ginawa mo? Kapus. Kaya kapus palad pa ang mga tao natin. I hope I'm communicating here in that sense that na I would like to see even work with people out there na ma-identify ng DNR na magtabi ng mga lupa dyan. Alam mo, sa Iloilo, ang daming lupa doon. Or sa Negros, ang haba nun. Ang daming mga lupa doon na mga sugar lands. Negros can be a country by itself. With an airport and a seaport, they can be a Singapore. And they have plenty of land. And land is always at a premium.
The suggestion of the good gentleman is for the DPWH to possibly inventory all the lands available in DENR, which are marginal, which are not being utilized, and to converge it with other agencies like DOTR and DTI and DOT so that the planning for infrastructure spending can be done. Is that your
It can be maximized and it can
Yes.
create jobs. And kung ayaw nila gawin yun, then you can make laws that say you're sitting on idle land, there can be an idle land tax that can be made higher. Because if you build infrastructure, you should use that right away to ensure that as steward of that land, as owner of that land, you can create jobs. That's what I'm saying.
Understood. And are you doing that? Maybe you should ask the DNR. Maraming things registered. Understood. So that it's not just an annual budget and of allocation of roads to already established industrial areas or economic zones. I understand what you're saying. And so what we need to do, the first step is to find out where are all these idle lands.
Correct.
And these idle lands are owned mostly by the DNR.
And the idle rich. Or for that
If
matter,
it's
you can
owned by the
create
private sector.
you can create also the settlers out there to say, oh, we'll get together and we'll form a corporation. Yung mga lupa natin, pag samasamahin natin yan, magagawa. Walang nagaganon eh. So, in reality, hindi na sayang ang pera ng bayan. Because we are creating jobs. Every time the President speaks, sabi niya, oh, we're creating infrastructure. World Bank will tell you infrastructure will mean government spending. That will mean creating of jobs. That will mean creating of consumer demand. Yun ang highway ng ekonomiya eh. Kung gumagawa tayo in a vacuum, hindi natin magagawa. But anyway, I think I've made my point on this point. And it is my hope that next year, when you come down, I will ask the same questions and you will have certain lands that will be identified with DNR, with the Department of Trade and others so that they can have a program. Because ma'am, pagdating nyo doon sa ibang bansa, yung ambassador magtatanong, gusto nyo kami magbenta pero hindi namin alam kung ano ibebenta namin. Wala kami lupang may ibebenta na lulugaran ng ating foreign direct investments. Ang sinasabi nila mataas ang kuryente, ang totoo, walang lulugaran yung foreign direct investment. Kaya mababa. Wala talagang lupa eh. Hindi lang yung kuryente. Kung walang lupa, saan ako pupunta dyan? Wala may sabi yung gobyerno. Ginawa mo na yung infrastructure, ginawa mo yung kuryente, ginawa mo yung tubig, pero wala. Patay rin tayo. Sayang lang ang pera.
Yes, Mr. President, we understand what you're saying, and that's being done, but perhaps there's a need for more aggressive action on this. And tomorrow, the DNR will be here for their budget.
And the
perhaps.
DOT are?
And the DOT.
And the DOT?
Yes, we can ask them whether that's being done, and perhaps request the DNR for an inventory of lands
And
which
NEDA
are not
to
forest
coordinate all
lands,
this?
which are unutilized and idle. Yes.
Thank you. I hope that's it's like a voice crying out in the wilderness because parang wala tayong play eh. Wala tayong laro eh. We're just creating and then let's hope that manna comes from heaven. It doesn't happen that way. Now, threatening this infrastructure, particularly in central Luzon, or in the case of Mindanao, the peace and order, in the case of central Luzon, flooding, in the case of southern Luzon, practically the same thing, even Metro Manila. And I noticed that you have quite a bit of flood control programs. For example, in central Luzon, it's 7.86 billion. As you know, I'm with the Red Cross, and every other year, I'm almost at Kalumpit, at Bukawi, at certain towns there that are always flooded. Babaksak yung ulan, ubos yung lupa, yung bundok doon sa Nueva Ecija, bababa from there, and it takes about, kalawo, tumigil lang yung ulan. 3 days later, Kalumpit River is rising along all the way up to Kamanava, and it stays there for about a week. What are we doing about that? Kasi dapat from the ground nyo nararamdaman eh. Una, patay lahat ang agrikultura. In fact, even in Bungabon, we had to send our payloaders to clear it from mud. Hindi mo sabi kung ano lalagay na, specifics. Can you show on the overhead projector what we're doing there? Ayoko yung kaparing-paringgit eh. Dapat pareho rin na sinasabi ko, dapat may holistic plan eh. Para matatapos. Kundi ang laking perang nawawala sa bayan natin.
The question is what is DPWH doing to alleviate the flood situation in those areas in Bulacan?
Apart
The region
from earmarking a budget for that, but I want to see what is the game plan. Why did you put money here? Why did you put money there? Ano ang end result? What is the end game? I would be beholden to the operator of the slide projector if he would bring down the curtain on the slide projector para makita natin kung saan napupunta yan.
Mr. President, there's been an identification of the major river basins, and this is a carryover actually of the previous administration, but what they're doing is they're continuing the construction of flood control and dikes in the major river basins.
I
And
always
they're also doing a master plan for all major river basins.
I'm aware of that. I'm always in touch with the river basin people in Pampanga. Let me see whether I can help you out. The trees are totally absent in the mountains already. So when it rains, together with it, water flows into a silted series of rivers. Silted by the erosion from the mountains and silted by the eruption of Mount Pinatubo many years ago, which has practically made the river shallow. So the assimilative capacity of the river, automatically when there's an awful amount of rain, will overflow. And then when it does that, the erosion damages also all the fields in Central Luzon. And when that happens, if you make either dredge the river, or for that matter, have the prisoners, which I have a bill for, plant trees up in the mountains of the Cordilleras and the Sierra Madres, that would be a plan. And if you go on all the way down to Central Luzon, to the Manila Bay Basin, the bay itself, if we reclaim land, then siguro mas kikita pa tayo. Nilalima mo ang ilog, nagtanim ka ng kahoy, nawala yung putik, lumalim ang ilog, navigable, may tourism ka pa, magiging productive yung farmer, may bagong panlupa along Manila Bay. Because Manila reclamation is the fastest way to get new land and new development. Is there such a plan? I'm just doing this by common sense as a former mayor. That's what I came through when I was mayor of Olongapo. I hope the sponsor is, we've been friends for a long time, and I don't ask individual questions about how much or what.
Yeah.
I just
Yes,
want to see the essence of what your programs are.
Yes, yes. Actually, Mr. President, there's a master plan for flood management in areas around Metro Manila, which includes Region 3, and to create livable and sustainable and resilient communities. And they are doing dam construction, river improvement.
Can we
and
show it on the,
do you have the PowerPoint? of
can you
this?
use the PowerPoint? For example, if you said Manila, I was asking about Central Luzon. Laguna de Bay, I'm told, has already gone very, very shallow to the point it's about 14
May
feet.
PowerPoint ito.
Malamang.
Yes.
Di ba? 14 feet?
I understand what you're saying. Those are very relevant questions, and this is, and this page shows improvement of the inflow rivers to Laguna Lake. I had to cite the surrounding areas around Metro Manila because this will affect the flood situation.
Oh,
in
I'm
Metro
not
Manila.
taxing you on that. You are an environmentalist par excellence.
Can you pass this to Senator?
And
Gordon?
I know that
Yes, thank you. Ito ang ginawang page. Yes. Could you show it again? Thank you. Thank you, Miss. Thank you.
ano ito? Can you lead me through this? Saan niyo pa? Saan naman dyan? Kinuha niyo.
You're correct. There must be a master plan which would include massive tree planting in the Sierra Madres, for example, which causes the floods in the Marikina area.
I can already predict without pag-asa what's going to happen when there's rain. Tuyahan River, Kamanava will be flooded, Kanlumpit will be flooded. The people are asking, what are we doing here? Nilaliman niyo ba yung Laguna de Bay? Nagtanim na ba tayo ng kahoy doon sa taas, ng bundok? Are we moving the settlers, the illegal settlers from the river so that we don't have to spend a lot of money? This is a whole plan that I'd like to see. And dapat every year may improvement.
And if I may add, Mr. President, that includes the fish pens, which have
Correct.
limited the area in Central Luzon.
Sinakal na yung ilog, sinakal na yung lawa, yung wawa.
Oo. Yeah.
Kaya kawawang tao.
So you're correct. The soil erosion, the soil erosion which causes the siltation, and then the fish pens, legal or illegal.
So if you say you're creating Pasig Marikina River, I'm going back to Manila, you're not answering my question in Central Luzon, eh?
No,
The gentle lady said,
no. I'm answering you Central Luzon because that's part of the Mega Manila area.
okay, all right, I'll buy that, I'll buy that.
Bulacan is already almost part.
I will buy anything
of
that you
the
sell.
Metro Manila. No, it's true. We cannot discuss Metro Manila in isolation of Central Luzon, Mr. President. Just
like
like we
I
cannot
said, when you have a flood in Manila, you will hit Kamanava, you'll go all the way to Kalumpit, and Kalumpit also affects Manila. I'm aware of that. And that's why I'm suggesting rivers have to be dredged. You have to have, reclamation. But you have a plan here, Pasig Marikina River Improvement and Dam Construction, 198 billion. When you see that, that's a very impersonal plan. Kailan matatapos yan? At kailan matatapos itong planong ito para talagang mararamdaman ng tao na naagapan na natin yung problema. May Kawayan River Improvement. Ano yung ini-improve doon? Baka naman yun lang mga side ng river na ini-improve, hindi natin nalalaliman. Malabon Tulyan River Improvement. Ano ang ini-improve doon? South Parañaque Las Piñas River Improvement, 17.34 billion. Ang lalaki nito, 21.64 billion Malabon Tulyahan River. West Laguna Lakeshore Land Racing. I remember there was even a program na nausyami yung programa dito sa Laguna de Bay, yung pinigil ng nakaraang administrasyon. Who knows what would have happened kung tinuloy yun, no? So that was also an offshoot that created Ondoy, which created a tremendous flood, even affecting EDSA. That even our own rescue units could not get in because inarang na tayo. Bumaha na sa Cainta, bumaha na sa lahat, hindi na kami makapasok doon, pati EDSA tinamaan dahil lumulutang na yung mga kotse. So, to me, there has got to be a program here that must be presented to us na lahat ito makakatulong at eventually in 2 or 3 years tapos yan. Halimbawa, may programa itong Global City, palibasa private sila. Naglagay sila ng water retarding basin doon sa Burgos Circle. Ang lalim may 6 na istorya, ang lalim ng building. 72 meters in diameter. That's a program that doesn't make Taguig flood. But on the other hand, if we don't do it with the other areas, they will, what is not there will go to another area. Hindi po ba? So, importante sa akin na makita ko sa inyo na pagka ganito kalaki ang gagastusin natin, dapat makikita natin na ito, patungo dito para ba, ito, sunod-sunod na yan. Hindi na tayo mahihirapan in the next 5 or 10 years. I don't mind kung gaano katagal. Basta, every year, I want some measurable, Mr. President, I would like to see measurable progress. Na because of this money, natapos na itong Pasig River, natapos na itong Tulyahan River, makita niyo bumababa na ang flooding. Pero ang pinakamalaking source dyan, Laguna de Bay, at saka yung river doon sa taas, and of course, yung talagang congestion. All this goes to what we've been talking about with the sponsor na dapat talaga i-decongest ang Metro Manila. Because this is a bomb waiting to happen, not just for earthquakes, but a major flood can really destroy Metro Manila if that suddenly transpires.
The 351 billion, Mr. President, concerns both Metro Manila and Central Luzon, as you will see here, and Region 4A as well. And the concept of having the rainwater catchment in Burgos Circle is going to be continued. And in fact, in Cavite, there's an area that is being purchased or was purchased for a how many hectare rainwater catchment? For a 48-hectare rainwater catchment.
Ma'am, ang sinasabi ninyo sa
To
akin,
retard flooding.
patingi-tingi. No? Ang kailangan natin makita is may measurable way that we can say, all right, last year we spent this much. What did it buy us? And when are we going to stop putting money here, na not in terms of billions and billions, but nagamot na, so konti na lang, maintenance na lang tayo. That's what I'm trying to find out. Bata pa ako, may flood tax na eh. Sa mga sino eh.
This is the master plan.
I have it.
Before us, yes. And 10% of this has been implemented.
10%.
This is a continuing project in a span of...
So you're saying 10 years.
How long?
Kung 10% ito, 10 years.
By 2030.
So would it be fair to say by next year, I will ask you again, asan na kayo? Sasabihin nyo 20%.
Till 2030.
Kasi matagal na sinasabi yan eh. Lahat na. Naabutan ko na yan dito sa Kongreso nung first term ko. Bata pa ako, yung Metro Manila tax, flood tax, inaangal ng mga sinihan yan. Ako abogado nung araw niyan, pero wala kami nakikita. Pagkatapos dito sa Central Luzon, ganyan rin. wala pa yung problema natin na ocean surge. Ocean's rising. Ito ba, makakasapat doon? Manila is below sea level. Di po ba, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. President.
Manila is below sea level.
Apart from the fact that we're below sea level, the the soil or the land is also going down. Ang tawag doon, it's degradation.
Subsidence.
Subsidence. There's also
Or subsidence.
soil subsidence due to overpopulation, over-extraction of groundwater. So
Correct.
it's both.
That's happening in Pangasinan. That's happening in all over
In the
Central
Gupa,
Luzon.
yes, yes. The seas are rising, and we're already below sea level, and there's also continued ground
But then that's
subsidence.
another problem because if I follow your route, we will run out of water in Pangasinan, fresh water. Mahirapan tayo. And that's why you need dams. And that's why you need impoundment para hindi masayang yung tubig. So, ang hinahabol ko lang po is makita natin kung ito ay may patutunguhan talaga at tayo masusukat natin na mababawasan ang damage at matatapos yan as we go on every year. Because patuloy eh.
This project, according to them, is the master plan up to 2030, and they have completed 10%, and hopefully if funds are available, we could complete it even before 2030. It's an ambitious master plan.
Well, ambition is made of sterner stuff, as Julius Caesar said. But let me just ask, what are we going to do in terms of, you say you can finish this by 2030. What hard decisions must we make? I'm just asking you to periscope for us in the Senate. What hard decisions must be made that we can help you with? Do you need to decongest Manila?
Mr. President, first, the relocation of informal settlers
That's
in
one.
vulnerable areas. Second, the
Just hold on. How
decongestion-
about, with your permission, just hold on for a while. If you decongest Metro Manila, you want to put these people where they can get jobs. So if you create that program that I was saying in Central Luzon, where you have 3 airports and 4 seaports and all those lands can be developed, then may pupuntahan yung mga taong ililipat natin sa Metro Manila. Tama po ba yan?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yun. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, yun ang kailangan natin maintindihan dito, na tuloy-tuloy tayo, na pag sinabi nyo, decongest, move the squatters, dapat, bago tayo nagpunta rito, nakahanda na tayo na magsabi, dito natin ililipat. Ito ang lupa sa harap, para industriyan, sa likod, mga subdivision, makakabawas pa sa pamasahe ng mga tao na nilipat nyo doon. Hindi na sila ay iwanan yung mga anak ng weekend, babalik lang sila sa weekend, iiwanan magluto yung mga bata. And I know this. I experienced this in the Red Cross. Iniiwanan ng mga tao doon sa San Jose del Monte, yung mga anak nila, because kung mamamasahe pa sila, hindi sapat yung gastos. Kaya yung bata, 8 years old, nagluluto sa kanyang kapatid, umaalis sa eskwela, nakita ko yan. And so therefore, kasi kung may iwan sila, magmamasahe sila, yung pedicab lang, iba ang pamasahe sa gabi, iba ang pamasahe sa araw, mas mahal sa gabi. So it's useless. So kailangan talaga i-decongest ang Manila at lagyan natin ng mga bagong pagkakataon sa Central Luzon na madali naman magawa kung tayo ay may 3 airport at 4 na seaport at gumawa tayo ng talagang master development plan where you can have economic zones where they can get the jobs. That's my point. And hindi pa tayo may interdict ng palagi tayong gumagasto sa baha ng baha. That's my point, Your Honor. And knowing you to be a prescient, visionary, not just the model of pulchritude, but the model of brain matter that is encased in a beautiful face, kaya niyang gawin yan. Tama ba yan, Bo?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Alam ko magte-thank you ka, pero yun naman, flattery will get me anywhere. But I just want to make sure that we understand where we're coming from. Because next year, manunukat na tayo dyan. Not only next year. We should really be trying to find out where are you. Let's say,
Yes.
if we investigate, nasaan na kayo dito sa, ginagawa nyo dito sa May Kawayan River Improvement, at mabagal kayo dyan, that could be misfeasance. That could be malfeasance, which is Blue Ribbon Fair.
Non-feasance. Pag
Non-feasance.
walang nangyayari.
Walang nangyayari. So, yun lang po ang gusto kong malaman na dapat namomonitor natin dito sa Committee on Public Works or sa atin na masasabi sa atin na ito ay nangyayari. Hindi yung pagdating ng budget ulit, tatanungin natin, and then yun na naman ang sasagot sa atin. We have a young secretary who is the son of one of our own, and I wouldn't want to be asking him all kinds of questions. I would like him to succeed because his success is our success.
Yes. And your suggestion of coordinating with the DNR, not just insofar as an inventory of available idle lands, but also for massive reforestation in areas which are the cause, like the bald Sierra Madres, in areas where it's bald, this is the cause for soil erosion, which is causing the flooding, let's say, in the Marikina River Basin, which is the cause of Ondoy. So, you're correct, the DPWH should not work in isolation, which they are not. They're coordinating with all these agencies, not just for development of economic zones and industrial areas and access roads to this, but also insofar as flood control is concerned. And they're basing this, the next year's programs on this more than 10-year, this 14-year World Bank funded master plan.
With respect, I know that they're doing, but they must do more.
Understood.
Hindi-
Yes.
I mean, hindi ko nakita yung sagot na may coordination sa DNR, may coordination sa DTI, para lahat ng mga plano ng NEDA ay talagang hindi masasayang. Yun lang ang sinasabi ko dito po. Yan lang po. So, you get a free pass this year. Next year, you don't get a pass anymore. That's what I'm saying.
You look for the accomplishment next year.
Correct, correct. And you look for the plan next year na talagang even before it reaches next year, nagpaplano na tayo. Now, yun sa tourism naman, ang convergence program natin is, ang balita ko, 1,550 kilometers na ang completed natin sa tourism roads between 2011 and 2016. And ang budget natin ngayon is what? 84 billion or for tourism? 12 billion. Tourism is is our principal engine of growth. Pinakamadali yan Your Honor. Hindi masyadong, ang ating enticements ay very natural. So kailangan lang dyan karsada at saka papairal yung mga tourism infrastructure zone para magkaroon ng mga hotel. Is that happening now? Are you accelerating that?
The Department of Tourism, they're coordinating with the DOT, and they have in their master plan the roads leading to these tourism areas, Mr. President. And I know it's not new because in the past administration, they've already been, the priority roads of the DPWH are those leading to airports, seaports, and tourism and economic zones.
That's why I ask you those questions, Your Honor, because there is a study, I understand, by Very Risk Map, CCROFT, Croft then? Map, Croft, na talaga makita nyo halos the whole country is flood prone. So talagang dapat tapusin natin itong mga programs na ito. Sa Tuguegarao, sa Lucena, Quezon, sa Manila, wala pa tayo sa Batangas, sa Cabanatuan, sa Batangas, 4 billion. San Carlos, Naga, Camarines Sur, wala pa tayo sa Mindanao. And that's what I'm saying. Kailangan talaga, journey of 1,000 steps must begin with the first step.
You're correct, Mr. President. In fact, I consulted them, and they are doing not just the utilization of geohazard maps, but also multi-hazard risk assessment in all their construction.
The memory serves correct. I remember I put a lot of money on the mapping, hazard mapping in my first term, and we were together on that.
It's 1:10,000 now, what you're using.
But let me just add this.
It's completed, the one is.
In Mindanao, in the Maguindanao area, Cotabato, the Liguasan marshes have all those water lilies, and they go to the river, right? And creates a gargantuan amount of water that floods the area. Just to get out the water lily there is already a behemoth of a problem. What program are we doing in that area, Your Honor? Because malaki ang pera sa Mindanao By the way, that's a tourism area, the Liguasan Marshes. Yung area dyan sa Lake Cebu. Di ba? Lake Cebu, Mount Ututu, Mount Parker. Sa South Cotabato, yung mga lugar na yan, napakaganda. At yung Liguasan Marshes, that's very close to the heart of my seatmate by the name of Senator Villar. Wetlands.
Yes, there's an ongoing project, Mr. President, and that includes the Liguasan Marsh, the in the Ala Valley, in the Ala River, and what's the other? The Imbanan Marsh. There's the Mindanao River Basin project.
And when will that be
Yes, Mr.
completed?
President. Kailan matatapos?
And what are we doing to interdict the water lilies? How do we interdict that, by the way?
Tinatanggal yung mga water lily.
Isang charcoal based water lily based charcoal. Pinoprocess ko.
They're utilizing the water lily, Mr. President. They have a
Sorry?
MOA. Is it a government
It's
agency?
private. It's private.
There's a MOA with a private company,
Mapicon Corporation.
Mapicon Corporation,
Mapicon, that's owned by Mr. Katan. Yes. Is he doing that?
who are, they're the ones collecting all the water lily and utilizing it. That's
Well,
good. That's good.
How big a collection is he able to do? That's a gargantuan problem. I've been there. I have waded the waters of Cotabato floods. I took a little boat. And that's also not a very healthy area. There are crocodiles in that area. Huh? The waters go to Bukidnon, according to my friend,
Yeah.
the distinguished gentleman from Bukidnon. So, yung mga yon, hindi pwedeng taon-taon dumadating dito yan, pero walang katapusan.
There are 6 high-impact priority projects for the Mindanao River Basin. And this is the Rio Grande, the Mindanao, Ambal,
that's
Simuay, Pulangi, Ala River, Tamontaka, Buluan, Alip. And they're now the subject for detailed engineering design. And I can give you all the details of how many kilometers and hectarage that is involved here.
You know, it would be nice
We can give this.
if there is a couple of paragraphs when you present your budget
Oo.
describing what is being done about these areas. And I would really appreciate that for all the senators because makikita natin kung anong ginagawa, let's say, sa Liguasan. Anong ginagawa dito
yes.
sa...
Mr. President, during the budget hearing, this question was asked, and I asked for the report on the major river basin projects, and this was projected on the screen and explained to us lengthily during the budget hearing.
All right, I would appreciate a copy of that so I can...
No, can you give us
The
the
whole-
hard copy? Here.
So, basically, you will remember Sandong.
Yes, Region 10,
It is about, we're approaching that season
January.
before Christmas.
Yeah.
And when everybody was having Christmas parties and some have imbibed liquor and they were sleeping in the night, then all of a sudden a big explosion of water suddenly crashed down the Mombuaya River going all the way down to the people and a lot of people died. Are we able to prevent that now? Can you periscope to us what has been done to prevent that? What really caused it? Was it really a dam of illegally cut timber upstream?
It's,
I mean, the DPWH should be able to come out, and it's not the watch of Secretary Villar. At that time, the DPWH should be able to tell us if there's a massive disaster like Ondoy, parang kwan yan eh, parang extrajudicial killing. Walang paliwanag yung IAS. Kailangan after a killing or after an event that creates a awful lot of damage, dapat right away,
May
DPWH
paliwanag para
should
hindi na
furnish
mangyari
us
ulit.
ano nangyari, bakit nagkaganon.
if I'm able...
May you please submit to us what happened in Sendong, or what is happening in Liguasan Marshes, or what is happening in the mountains of Sierra Madre and Cordillera to prevent, I remember Mimaropa. I remember, no, not Mimaropa, but etong
Infanta Real
Real
in
at saka
2004, December.
naglabasan ng mga ahas doon. bumaksak yung mga kahoy, nabaha, naharang lahat ang mga karsada. I remember also in Isabela, hindi kami makapasok doon sa lugar na nasa tabi ng playa, doon sa Isabela, at saka sa lugar na mga yan. Because hindi natin napapaliwanag, basta we're just, parang bang useless tayo na tatanggapin na lang natin ay talagang ganyan. No, I am not going to accept that. We have to make sure, we have to have an explanation on what caused it and what is being done to prevent such explosive disasters that cause lives and that cause damage to property in the numbers.
What caused it, Mr. President, is one of the reasons is the degradation of our forest resources, logged, illegally cut logs, and both legal and illegal. And second, because of, so it's both man-made and the adverse effects of climate change, because the rains are stronger, more frequent, and more intense. It's not just climate change, but it's also man-induced, human-induced, because of the illegally cut logs in those areas that you mentioned, Sendong in Region 10, illegal logging in those areas. At the same time, rising sea level and ground subsidence. So all of this put together, ergo, there's flooding.
You can put 26 reasons in alphabetical order and you will have all those reasons. But I cannot see any solutions being offered or causes why this happened specifically. This cannot happen all in convergence. This happens because somebody kept cutting trees. And if that is the problem, and I will just say this now, kung let's say in drugs, sasabihin natin, pumapasok ang shabu galing sa China, then pigilin natin yung drugs galing sa China. Kausapin natin ang China. Kung ang cost nito ay yung continuous degradation of our forest, then we should put money in restoring the forest para hindi na magkakos yan. Kung ang cost niyan ay yung mga panghaharang ng mga ilog na nagdadala ng floods, yung mga hinaharang yung mga dike o hinaharang ng mga fish pens, dapat solvein natin. The problem is, the taxpayer pays for all this damage because all we have to do is accept it. Para ka nire-rape, pero hindi mo nahuhuli ng re-rape sa'yo. And I'm raising my voice because I'm really upset with it.
With the permission of Senator Gordon and the sponsor, can the chair recognize the majority leader who has been raising his hand?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
President.
President.
With
Maybe I should just answer Senator Gordon so that we don't lose
Yes,
track
yeah.
of that. Yes, Mr. President, regarding the Sendong area, Cagayan de Oro and Tagoloan, there's a JICA-funded project based on the master plan for the Tagoloan River and Cagayan de Oro River, because these are the areas which are flood-prone in Region 10, which were victimized during Sendong. So you're correct. The forest resources are one thing, but also the river basin project is another, and there's an ongoing JICA-funded project.
I'm almost done, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm almost done. All I'm saying is what I hear is basically, again, I emphasize it's not the fault of the President Secretary, but certainly the institution is there. You know the problem. You know the problem, all of you out there in the
Yes,
back.
they know the problem, and
Now,
there are major river basin projects.
What I'd like to
ongoing.
say is, you know, as long as I've been in government, the answer has always been present progressive. Ginagawa na yan. Pinaplano na yan. And the conclusion is, maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe never. What I'm saying is we must not allow it next year. What I'm saying is next year, the solutions must be preferred, the plans must be given, and the timeline must be undertaken so that our country doesn't have to suffer this depredation annually.
Mr. President?
Yes,
May I get that assurance
May
from
I
the
allow
sponsor?
to, maybe allow to interject.
Okay, it's already 12:44. Can we suspend and come back here at, what, 2:30?
2:30.
And all of us will have an opportunity to raise all the questions.
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Majority
President,
Leader?
only 1 minute on Cagayan de Oro because just to answer the gentleman from Subic and just 1 minute to help
Of course.
our because I am from Cagayan de Oro, Bukidnon. We have the Senate presidents from Cagayan de Oro. They're building a massive dike on both sides of the river. I see it because I crossed through there going to the airport from Lagindingan. That massive dike has been put in place the last 3 years so that any rise in the tide of the sea as well as the rivers
it will be able to at least defend both sides of the river, of the
There'll be a
rivers.
warning.
Yes. So they're doing something naman, Mr.
I
President.
know.
Thank you.
I'm not saying they're not doing anything. I'm just saying that we should really start preparing for the future so that hindi na ito pabalik-balik.
Majority
Mr.
Leader is
President.
Thank you.
recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I don't really want to disturb the intellectual exchange between the two, but I cannot help but notice the pale faces of our secretariat and the employees. So I move to suspend the session, break for lunch, and be back here at 2:30 this afternoon.
Session is suspended until 2:30 this afternoon.